Bam! Get out of here. Fly somewhere else. Bam, ladies and gentlemen. We have the latest Psychic Awakening Faith and Fury book in front of us right now. Very excited to see this, see how this continues, and see kind of the continuation after the first book to see what they're really going to do with these books going forward as far as rules and changes that they're going to make to the game. And quite frankly, seeing what they've included in this is very exciting about what's going to continue happening with the Psychic Awakening series that they're going to keep doing. So this is, again, the second book in the Psychic Awakening series. The first one was Phoenix Rising, and this one's Faith and Fury. Should be interesting. It's also interesting to see how they've got it all divvied out here. So let's get into this just right away. So going in here, again, you've got all your normal stuff that you've got going through here with all of these, going back into the lore that they've gotten here with the Psychic Awakening. Very interesting stuff. I'm not going to ruin it because I don't want to be a spoiler with any of that. I think what you're going to get from me shouldn't be kind of the information here, because this is all really fun and interesting, cool story and development that they've got going on. I'm very excited with what they're doing with 40K now, with continuing the story and advancing the narrative of 40K after having so long that they've been stuck really at the precipice, like 5 minutes to midnight every time. But now we're going to go into some of the stuff they've got here. So they've got a bunch of missions again, which is going on, which is great. So you've got Unholy Grounds, Theaters of War. Just goes through all of the different stuff that they have here, the different ways that they've got it divided up. It's again, very narrative, very cool to see what they've got going on with all of this. Very fun. I think this is really kind of a really interesting way of pushing the narrative, as well as developing some more rules to continue the living rule set that is the 8th edition 40K rule set, as opposed to having to, what they've done with the supplements, what they've done with the new codexes is kind of cool, and I'm sure they're going to continue doing similar things, but it's also very cool to see these coming out periodically that are going to have a new set of rules to advance how the tabletop plays. Because, honestly, if it stays the same for too long, it can grow a little stale. And to see expanding and seeing what else you can do just to change things up is kind of interesting. Which is kind of what this is going to do. Gives you some more options to go in here. So the first set of rule sets they've got here is for Adeptus Astartes. I know they've got their new supplements and everything like that, but this changes some things very specifically for the Codex Space Marines here. So they've got Masters of the Chapter. Essentially what they go through here is they have ways of changing your character models to make it as though they are the preeminent one within your chapter. So essentially making your chief librarians and such. They've got rules and stratagems in here in this book for doing so, which is really, really kind of cool. And they got different ways of kind of adjusting your army to be the way you want it to be. So it can help you create that model, that one character in your army that that you've developed this lore, you've done this story with. Maybe they've advanced from all the way from down as a neophyte all the way up to the master of the forge for the chapter that you've developed. This gives you the ability to do that, which is really kind of interesting and cool. But first off, they've got some chapter litanies. So these are for specifically for the chaplains of these specific chapters. So all the different, basically all the founding chapters that they have that came out with their own supplements, they now have a specific litany that is only for their chapter, that chaplains in their chapter can do. Also, it should be pointed out that the Crimson Fist keyword, so Crimson Fists get to use the Imperial Fist one in this one and just count it as Crimson Fists. So they're continuing along with the idea that the Crimson Fist came out with the supplement for Imperial Fists. So, for the White Scars, we'll go with theirs first. It comes here, strike off the head. If this litany is inspiring, then when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in a friendly White Scars unit within 6 inches of this model, you can re-roll the wound roll. So re-rolling wound rolls for White Scars in close combat, which is really kind of cool. Popping that off with the re-roll to hits litany, it would be really kind of interesting to see them go with that. Then you have the Imperial Fists, Fortress of Resolve. If this litany is inspiring, then when resolving an Overwatch attack made by a model in a friendly Imperial Fist unit within 6 inches of this model, a hit roll of 5 or 6 scores a hit. Very cool there. More defensive, which I guess kind of works with the Imperial Fist. essentially you can just set yourself up so that if you know that you're facing off against an army that is very assaulty, so if you're going against a whole bunch of Khorne berserkers, or you're going against like a Gene Stealer cult army, you know that you can just, instead of trying to take him on the offensive, your chaplain could just like hold the line along with your gun line there and give them the ability to get better overwatch, which is fun. Salamanders, if this litany is inspiring, it's selfless saviors. If this litany is inspiring, friendly salamanders units within 6 inches of this model can perform heroic interventions as if they were characters. So suddenly now, if you say you didn't want to charge into that Heminator squad and they tried to keep them out of combat, if they're within 6 inches of an inspiring chaplain from your army there, they can heroically intervene that 3 inches necessary to get into combat and get in those swings during their time, which is pretty cool. Then you've got the Iron Hands, Medusan Führer. If this litany is inspiring, add 1 to strength characteristic of models in friendly Iron Hands units whilst their unit is within 6 inches of this model. So +1 strength, that's pretty cool. That now makes those Power Fists on regular Marines strength 10, which makes a big difference, which is kind of cool. Then you've got Ultramarines, March for McCrae. If this litany is inspiring, then when an advance roll or charge roll is made for a friendly Ultramarines unit within 6 inches of this model, you can re-roll any or all dice rolls of 1. So if you roll that double ones for your charge there, you can re-roll both of them. Or if you have a 6 and a 1, you can just re-roll the 1, which is nice, as opposed to having to only have it re-roll the charge rolls, which is always that situation there where you're sitting there wondering. So this could be really powerful if you're trying to get in the assault there. Have him running up along with a bunch of aggressors that you want to get into combat over there would be really kind of cool. So you can use some of the other litanies as they're making their way up there to help, and then all of a sudden, right when you're going to get ready to make the charge, pop this one, and suddenly now you get to re-roll ones in the charge, which is always nice. Then you've got Raven Guard, Swift as the Raven. If this litany is inspiring, select 1 friendly Raven Guard unit within 6 inches of this model. That unit can shoot in a turn in which it fell back. If that unit can fly, it can charge in a turn in which it fell back. That's pretty cool. It makes it that if you want to be aggressive, you can get up there, make in the charge, and then know that if you don't manage to kill that unit in your turn or in your opponent's next turn, then you could just fall back and still shoot into that unit with the rest of your army. And then if they have fly, so if you've got some Inceptors, or if you've got it says any Raven Guard unit, so who knows, even like Impulsors, anything like that, you can just fall back and then still charge in, which is nice. And if it's just a regular unit, say you're holding up on a gun line and they try to charge into you or consolidate into you to try to keep you from being able to shoot them, you can fall back and just shoot right into their grill, which is really cool, with the help of a chaplain there. So some really cool abilities there. I think, quite frankly, that the Overwatch for the Imperial Fist one is possibly my favorite out of the all the things that you gain from all the regular litanies for the chaplains is cool. I think that this one really adds a little something, which is really kind of cool to be able to do there, because hitting on 5s and 6s, that doubles the chances of getting a hit there when you're shooting into them, which is kind of cool. So now let's get into these cool new character abilities that you have here. So we've got Master of Sanctity. So basically what happens is in each of these different ones, for 1 CP, you can turn one of your specific Space Marine HQs into the master of the chapter for that one. So the Chief Librarian, Master of Sanctity, Master of the Forge, all those different things, which is kind of cool. So essentially what happens here is you take a chaplain, you spend the 1 CP, and they become Master of Sanctity keyword, and they gain the following ability, Master of Sanctity. This model knows 1 additional litany from the litanies of battle and can recite 1 additional litany at the start of the battle round. You can only use the stratagem once per battle, and your army cannot include 2 Masters of Sanctity from the same chapter. So essentially you can only do it once. You can't have 2 of them. There's only one. There's only supposed to be 1 in existence for every chapter. But if you spend it now, suddenly you have 1 more litany that you have on your chaplain, and he can inspire a second or an additional one as well, just helping you take advantage of those new litanies that they have here, which is kind of cool. So if they become your warlord, there's certain warlord traits that a Master of Sanctity can take, which is kind of cool. So the first one is Wise Orator. When you roll to determine if a litany recited by this warlord is inspiring, you can re-roll the dice, which is which is kind of cool. Bellowing Firebrand, add 3 inches to the range of this Warlord's spiritual leader ability, and all litanies recited by this Warlord. So that's kind of cool. Plus 3 inches to the, so 9 inches now, a 9-inch bubble, which would be really cool with the Imperial Fist ones with the Overwatch. You sit them in the middle of your gun line, and now all the units within 9 inches of them are going to be able to fire Overwatch on 5s and 6s. Makes it very difficult for your opponent to try to avoid bumping into that bubble there with their assaults. Then you've got different relics that you can give them if you have the Master of Sanctity. So the first one is going to be the Sacrosanct Rosarius. Gives them a 3+ invul instead of the 4+, which is always super impressive. Which is why you see so many smash captains with the Storm Shield. Now that now when they talk about the slap cap, the what do they call them? The Slaplins instead of the smash captains, they've got the Slaplins, the slap chaplains. Give him with this Master of Sanctity, and now he's got a 3+ invul save that he's running in there with all of his buffs and all of the different things that he can pop in there. That's going to be super impressive. Going to be very hard to take him down with that because you can't really shoot him from a distance since he's a character. You're going to have to hope that you have some snipers or just get that lucky first shot in. The next one you can have is the Emperor's Judgment. Again, Master Sanctity model only. When resolving an attack made against a model with this relic, your opponent cannot reroll the hit roll, your opponent cannot reroll the wound roll, and your opponent cannot reroll the damage roll. In addition, when a morale test is taken for an enemy unit within 6 inches of a model with this relic, roll 2 dice and discard the lowest result. If both results are the same, discard either of the dice. That's pretty cool. So that goes in, a lot of the different armies nowadays, the rerolling dice rolls is a huge multiplier that these forces have. So now, even if you're getting shot at by a squad of eliminators, they're going to have those 3 shots to hit you, and they can't reroll. So it doesn't matter if a captain's near them, it doesn't matter if lieutenant's near them, it doesn't matter what you have there. They can't reroll anything basically when they're shooting into you, which is really, really cool. And it's also super helpful if you're playing against me with a Vindicator Assassin, and I always roll that 1 to hit or that 1 to wound, because that's what I always do. Cannot spend that CP to reroll that. So very cool there. I think Master of Sanctity, I imagine you're going to see a fair amount of these for 1 CP, making them like a super powerful, especially since people have been talking about taking them as an accompaniment to the Smash Captains. I think that the Slaplins are going to be very cool addition here, especially if you make them a Master of Sanctity with. I think that 3+ invul save is going to be a big choice for people to take there as a relic, just because of the giving him the 3+ invul save, and he's going to have the jump pack, throwing out a whole bunch of litanies. I think it's going to be a big thing to take here. Then we got the Master of the Forge. Essentially, this is a Tech Marine, which isn't a Tech Marine gunner, so it can't be someone who's gunning, who's arming or shooting off one of your Thunderfire cannons. It's got to be a regular Tech Marine. 1 CP. When this model repairs a model using the Blessing of the Omnisci ability, that model regains up to 3 lost wounds instead of up to D3. So it's basically a flat 3 that you're healing with your ability there, which is super great, especially if you're running vehicle heavy lists. Throw in a Master of the Forge, and suddenly now they're going to be helping you out there. So you've got a whole bunch of repulsors that you want to just heal back up as they're getting shot. 3 damage flat, which is super nice there. If you make them a Warlord, there's a couple of Warlord traits that you can get there. When resolving an attack made by a friendly chapter vehicle, a model within 6 inches of this Warlord, add 1 to the hit roll. So now suddenly all of your repulsors are hitting on 2s, or all of your predators are hitting on 2s. That's pretty nice, especially if you pair that with throwing a captain next to him. Now you're hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. Super fun for a gun line there with that, throwing him in there, which would be great. And then the other one is Warden of the Ancients. Add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristic of friendly chapter dreadnought models whilst they're within 6 inches of this Warlord. So now suddenly if he's running up along with your dreadnoughts, they've got, 6 attacks on the charge with shock assault. Plus they're going to be, what does that make it? Strength 14. So you're wounding most vehicles on 2s. That's pretty great. Except for, obviously like knights or anything that's T8. But any of your regular vehicles, you're going to be wounding them on 2s because tough 7 is a big level there. Or you're wounding other dreadnoughts on 2s, which is kind of interesting. Then we've got Relics of the Forge, so different relics that you can give them. Basically, you can change out their power axe so that it's strength +3, AP -3, D3 damage. And when resolving an attack made with this weapon against a vehicle unit, if the saving throw is failed, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So you're basically doing D3 wounds plus 1 mortal wound, which is pretty brutal when you've got that, especially strength +3, so you got strength 7. So you're hitting most vehicles there on 4s, which is not bad. AP -3, big deal, big oof right there for them. And then you've got Endurant Protector. This has to be a Magister Forge model only, obviously, as they've been going along here. Add 1 to the toughness characteristic of a model with this relic. A model with this relic has a 4+ invul save. So basically, if you want to keep them alive longer, you got +1 toughness and +1 invul save. So now they're going to be tough 5 with a 4-up invul save, which is great. 2-up armor, 4-up invul save. It's going to be hard to get through there. Then they've got their Chief Librarian. So essentially, if you make them the Chief Librarian, this model knows 1 additional psychic power from their chosen discipline and can attempt to deny 1 additional psychic power in your opponent's psychic phase. You can only use this stratagem once per battle, and your army, again, cannot include more than 1 Chief Librarian. Then you've got his Warlord traits. If he becomes your Warlord, Psychic Mastery. When a Psychic test is taken for this Warlord, for the first time in a phase, add 1 to the total. So the first Psychic test that you make, you get +1, which is pretty good. The other one is High Scholar of the Librarius. This Warlord can generate psychic powers from any discipline that they can know powers from, rather than generating psychic powers from only 1 discipline. So if you pair that with the additional one that you get there, you can choose 3 different powers from 3 different disciplines, which is great if you have the ability there. So that would be kind of fun to be able to pick and choose if you so want to just kind of really tool them out to specifically what you're looking to do with your strategy. Then you've got the relics that they can take. 1 replaces their Force Sword to strength +1, AP -3, D3 damage. And when resolving an attack made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of 6 inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target instead of any other damage. So they can't make a save. So an unmodified wound roll of a 6, no save allowed, even if you've got an invul save, because it's doing D3 mortal wounds. They're just going to go straight through there, which is brutal, So any 6s doing that. That's a fun one to take, I think. Then you've got Neural Shroud. Add 12 inches to the range of this model, with this relic's Psychic Hood ability. So now, at the full 24 inches that they can deny the witch, they're going to get +1 to deny the witch, which is always super beneficial to have, especially if you're going against something with Smite Spam. You can just pop this guy in the middle there, and he's going to be able to, try to deny the witch. Especially if you've got if he's your Chief Librarian, he can deny 3 powers now. So you can just deny a whole bunch of smites in a row with the +1 there, which is really super beneficial, super helpful there. Then you've got your Chief Apothecary. When this model provides medical attention to a unit, you can re-roll the dice to determine if a destroyed model is returned to that unit, which is super beneficial, because the number of times that I've rolled not the 4+ and the model doesn't come back and then he's stuck doing nothing is not great. Then they've got a couple of Warlord traits here. So you've got when a model in a friendly Chapter Infantry or Chapter Biker unit would lose a wound whilst their unit is within 6 inches of this Warlord, roll 1d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. If that unit has the Flesh is Weak Chapter tactic, that wound is not lost on a 5+. So essentially, giving him a 6+ feel no pain within 6 inches of him, which is super beneficial, and a 5 bumping the Flesh is Weak up to 5+, so a +1 to their feel no pain, essentially, which is really great within 6 inches of him. The other one is Selfless Healer. This Warlord can provide medical attention to up to 2 units instead of 1, and a unit that has provided medical attention was provided medical attention by this Warlord can be provided with medical attention for a second time in a turn by this Warlord. Note that this Warlord can do so even if it is recovering the Gene Seed from a fallen warrior. So essentially, it lets you do the Apothecary stuff twice, which is great, onto the same unit, so you can bring back an aggressor in an aggressor unit, and then cast it again, and then heal them D3 wounds, which is great. So now all of a sudden, as opposed to bringing back an aggressor with 1 wound left, you bring back an aggressor at full strength after you heal them there, which is pretty great. Or you can do it to 2 different units. So say this unit, 1 unit lost something, another unit lost something. You can bring back 1 in each of them, which is pretty great. And it also ignores the fact that you can't do anything. So if you try to bring back on the first unit, fail on that 4-up, you can then bring it back on. You can still try to bring it back on the second unit and bring it back. You can also apparently do it on the same one. So I don't see any. There's no reason in my mind that you can't try it on the first one, fail, and then try it again on the second unit there, because it's not. It's just using your second attempt of providing medical attention there, which is pretty interesting. Then they've got the relics. So acquittal. This is possibly my favorite of the relics that they offer between these guys. It's such a cool thing. So it replaces a bolt pistol or absolver bolt pistol. So essentially, if you wanted your Primaris Apothecary to be able to do it, it replaces it with a range 16, pistol 1, strength 5, AP -3, 1 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon against a unit that is not a vehicle or monster, this weapon has a damage characteristic of D6 for that attack. Boom. A D6 pistol at 16 inches is super cool. You know, you get him locked in combat, he's shooting you for D6 wounds, which is awesome, especially AP -3, strength 5. You're wounding most things on 3s or 4s at that point. You know, that's awesome. I really like that one a lot. I really think it adds a lot to the ability of an apothecary to just be more than just kind of sitting there or as as a tax there, which is kind of cool. Then you've got the healer's Aegis is the other one. Friendly chapter infantry models have a 5+ invulnerable save whilst they're within 1 inch of a model with this relic. So infantry models have a 5+ invul save whilst they're within 1 inch of a model with this relic. Not as big a fan of that one. 5+ invul save is pretty nice, but models have to be within 1 inch. So, I mean, it could be good if you just infantry models. So you can give your other characters that don't have invul saves the ability to get an invul save, which is nice, but that's about all you're really going to do, because most other units are not going to get within an inch there. So, of the two, acquittal is by far, in my opinion, the better one. Then we've got Chapter Ancient. Friendly chapter units benefit from this model's Astartes banner ability if they are within 9 inches of it instead of 6 inches. So it increases the banner ability to 9 inches, which is really good. I've got a couple of Warlord traits here. Singular Presence. Friendly infantry, biker, or dreadnought units within 3 inches of this Warlord can perform heroic interventions as if they were characters. So that's pretty fun, running them up there, getting the ability to just heroically intervene. So you can be super aggressive and not fear that your opponent's going to leave you out in the lurch there, which is fun. And then you've got Steadfast Example. Friendly chapter infantry units have the Defenders of Humanity ability whilst they are within 3 inches of this Warlord. If such a unit already has this ability, each model counts as one additional model when determining control of an objective marker. So that's super fun for just a force multiplier for OBSEC onto objectives there, which is always super handy to have. It becomes very difficult to just, to wrest wrest a relic away from you. So if someone charges into you with like a bunch of chaff, like maybe a bunch of cultists or a bunch of orc boys, they overwhelm Marines very easily with that. And you pop him down here, and suddenly that 10-man infantry squad, infantry squad is now giving you 20-man worth of OBSEC, which is super fun. Then you've got Banners of the Chapter. These are going to be basically relics that you can give them. So you've got Standard of Righteous Hatred, model with the Astartes banner ability only. Model with this relic has the following additional abilities. Models that shoot with one of their ranged weapons or make a single attack with one of their melee weapons as a result of this model's Astartes banner ability always resolve their attacks as if they were ballistic skill and weapon skill characteristic of 2+. So essentially, it is a chapter ancient, so it's basically giving you the ability that the Dark Angels have for their chapter ancients that are just more expensive than the regular ancients there. So giving you the Dark Angels ability there. Then you've got Pennant of the Fallen models, chapter models that attack with one of their melee weapons as a result of the model's Astartes banner model make 2 attacks instead of 1. So that's fun if you're being aggressive. If you got a chapter ancient in your army and you're being aggressive with your forces and you're getting stuck into combat and they're making more punches than they are making shooting attacks, then you can use that. So very situational, and it would have to depend upon what kind of force that you're developing and how you're playing your list for that to really make sense for you to use. Then we've got Chapter Champion. Essentially, you've got your company champion here that you can change here. So they get the ability Skillful Parry. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon against this model, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So that's pretty much nice. -1 to hit in close combat against them makes them survive, because I mean, there's always the chance that you fail that early that early save there. But -1 to hit means that you have less saves to have to worry about there. Then you've got the Warlord traits that can go with here. You've got Master Duelist. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model against this Warlord, on a hit roll of 1, roll 1d6. On a 4+, that model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound after the unit has finished shooting or fighting. Don't know why it says shooting, because it has to be an attack made with a melee weapon by a model against this Warlord. So it had to be during the fight phase. I'm not sure what that says. But anyway, so it's basically on a hit. So every 1 that your opponent rolls on a 4+, they take a mortal wound. So again, they're -1 to hit here. But it says on a hit roll of 1, not a 1+, so it has to be a hit. It would just be a natural 1, not a on a hit roll of a 1. So I guess it would turn it into the 1. So basically on 1s and 2s against this unit, because dice effects of 1 and 2s, because they're going to be -1 to hit. You're doing a mortal wound on a 4+. That's not bad. You know, a third of the time. So I guess 1/6 of all the attacks that your opponent's going to put into this guy, they're going to be taking mortal wounds on average, which is not bad. Then you've got Marshal Exemplar. When a charge roll is made by a friendly chapter unit within 6 inches of this Warlord, you can re-roll the roll. So again, if you fail your 8-inch charge with a 6 and a 1, you have to re-roll both, but that's still better than just auto failing there. So that's not bad. I like that one. I'm not sure which one I would choose. I guess it really would depend upon what you're looking to do with them. If you want them to be a force multiplier, helping with reroll the charges is always nice. But if you want them to just be like a monster up in the combat there, then that's what I would probably go with. Then you got Relics of the Chapter, Blade of Triumph. Basically, it replaces Mastercrafted Power Sword only. This relic replaces the Mastercrafted Power Sword and has the following profile. It's Strength +2, AP -4, 3 flat damage. That's pretty good. It's a really, really good power sword there, just beating things at Strength 6. AP -4 is going to go through almost everybody's armor there. Pretty nice. And then you got the other one is Angel Artifice. This model has a save characteristic of 2+ and a 4+ invul save. So 2+4+, 2+4++ is super beneficial, especially if you're looking to keep them alive in the fits of battle. There is going to be super nice to have them there, having that ability there. So yeah, super fun, super cool ways to really up the ante on a lot of these characters. There's a lot more snipers out and about now, so that's something to keep in mind. But I think this is super, super cool to be able to really just really kind of adjust how you want your army to field and how you want the different characters to go. This also really gives you the ability to just create a super awesome, cool narrative with your characters as you develop them over the course of like a campaign, if you wanted to do that. So maybe what you have is if you're running a campaign and you've got different characters that are becoming, better and better as they go along, you can use these where it's like after a certain number of battles or a certain number of kills that they get or a certain number of things that they do, they can upgrade themselves to one of these. Would be really fun for a narrative campaign to go along with. And even for a competitive standpoint, the ability that a lot of these HQs can provide, the additions that these give them really up their ante and really up their ability to be effective on the battlefield. So I think these are going to be really fun to do. And for 1 CP, I think they certainly gain the abilities that it's worth it for them, especially for the chaplains and the librarians. I think I think Master of the Forge would be really great for like an Iron Hands gun line with repulsors. I think he would be super, super helpful with all of that. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do here for 1 CP, which is great. Then we go into the Black Templars. So they basically have a mini supplement for the Black Templars within this book, which is a fun thing to see that maybe this is what they're going to keep doing as they go along with this, with the Psychic Awakening. One thing I'm hoping for is hopefully maybe they'll do something similar for like the Fallen, give us access to a lot more things and make an actual full Fallen list with something with the Dark Angels against the Fallen, which would be fun. But that's neither here nor there, and complete and utter conjecture on my part. But it's kind of cool to see that they're going to that they're willing to and are doing that kind of thing with these supplements. as well as giving the different powers that they've got, like they did with the characters there. So let's go over what they've got going on here. So they talk about the different characters that they've got here. So they've got High Marshal Helbrecht, Chaplain Grimaldus, the Emperor's Champion, and Crusader Squads, and all those different things. And then they've got their abilities here. So we'll go into these in a second, but first they do have their super doctrine that they've got here, and it's called Knights of Sigismund. So essentially, as long as everybody is a Black Templar in your army, you gain access to Knights of Sigismund. Whilst the Assault Doctrine is active when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a Black Templar's model with this ability against a unit that is not a vehicle in a turn in which that model made a charge move or performed a heroic intervention, an unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically scores a hit and successfully wounds the target. So basically, 6s are auto hits and auto wounds in close combat, which is super helpful, especially if you're going against something that's -1 to hit, or not even just that. If you're going against something that's just hard to wound, so now all of your regular Marines going up and punching a knight on 6s, you're wounding them. It doesn't matter that you would need like a 6 to wound normally. You roll that 6 to hit, boom, you wounded them. You just have to roll that 1 6, which is super helpful there. And you also get the chance to rule the rest of them as 6s. The rest of your hits as 6s to wound, but you don't have to get that extra little bit there for those 6s, which is fun. Because I guess it's not a vehicle, so I guess the knights it wouldn't work in. But some of those big monsters that you've got going into there, going in against like a Tau Riptide, if you're going to punch him in the face, you got him right there. That's pretty cool. It also says that they cannot take librarians, and they cannot use the chapter champion stratagem because they get access to their own the Emperor's champion. So they can't use these special rules, the masters of the chapter. They can't make a champion there. They've already got their own, which is basically what they're talking about there. So then we got High Marshal Helbrecht over here. He's got 2/2. He's got 6 wounds, which is pretty good. 5 attacks. He's got his 2-up armor save. He's got Combi Melta, which is a normal Combi Melta there with a regular bolt gun and a regular Melta effect there. He's got the Sword of the High Marshals, which is strength +1. So he's going to be strength 5, -3, a D3 damage. When the bearer fights in a turn in which it made a charge move or performed a heroic intervention, it makes D3 additional attacks with this weapon. So essentially, you're looking at 6 plus D3 attacks when he charges, or made a heroic intervention. Which is, that's super cool. Be very aggressive with him. I think he's looking. A lot of the dark, a lot of these things are looking to be very aggressive with their abilities, which makes perfect sense for the Black Templars to be doing here. But it's going to be with shock assault there. You're looking at 6 plus D3 attacks with a strength 5 D3 damage -3 D3 damage. So that's pretty brutal. You're wounding knights on 5s and 6s and doing D3 damage apiece. Not bad. I know you don't necessarily want him to go hunting at knights, but if it comes down to it, he can do that, which is pretty cool. He's got Chapter Master reroll. You can reroll hit rolls for attacks made in models in the friendly Black Templar units whilst they're within 6 inches of the model. Not failed hit rolls, just hit rolls. So again, that ignores. It basically helps you ignore the negative modifiers to rerolls that would happen, because rerolls happened before. But you can say, oh yes, this 3 would hit, but I'm going to reroll it anyway because I know further down the line that it would be a fail. So you've got that going on there, which is pretty good. Then you've got Crusade of Wrath. Add 1 to the strength characteristic of friendly Black Templar models whilst their unit is within 6 inches of this model. So that would include him. So he's looking at strength 5. He's looking at strength 6 with his weapon, which is not bad. Strength 6 is doing a fine number on anything. You're wounding aggressors. You're wounding anything with Gravis armor on 3s at that point, which is pretty fun. And he's not Primaris, so he didn't cross the Rubicon. So you've still got your same old model works for him, which is pretty cool. And he's got a 4-up invul save because of Iron Halo. Going over here to the Emperor's Champion, the reason that you can't take the other one is because of this guy here. So he's going to have a ballistic skill of 3+, but a weapon skill of 2+. He's going to have 4 wounds. He's going to have 5 attacks. He's going to be armed with a bolt pistol, the black sword, which is strength +2, AP -3, D3 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon against a character or monster unit, you can re-roll the wound rolls. So that's pretty fun. Use him to just charge into enemy characters or charge into a bunch of monsters would be fun. Doing D3 damage apiece at strength 6, which is really good. If you got him over there with Helbrecht, he's going at strength 7, which is super effective. So pretty good. You've got Sigismund's Honor. Add 1 to the model's strength and attacks characteristics while also within 1 inch of any enemy character models. So now suddenly he's strength, if with Sigismund there, with his black sword, he's looking at strength 7, strength 6, strength 7, strength 8. So now you're wounding those character knights on 4s, which is pretty good. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon against this model, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So he's -1 to hit, which is super helpful to keep him alive, especially if you're charging into like a Castellan. They're hitting you on 4s at the top profile, so now they're hitting you on 5s at their top profile. If they're at their bottom profile, they can't even hit you. That's pretty good. No reason not to go finish off that Castellan with this guy then at that point. When Slayer of Champions, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by this model against an enemy character unit, you can re-roll the hit roll. So re-rolling hit rolls against any character is just super helpful. So obviously the idea is that he runs up there and declares, calls out the champion to come and fight him in the name of honor, or in the name of the champion, of the emperor there. So then he's going to be doing that, which is, it's super effective, and then he's going to have a 4+ invul save as well, which is super nice to keep him alive there. He's got 4 wounds, so he's a regular Marine character going on there, but still some really cool abilities, which I think is fun. Then you've got Chaplain Grimaldus. He's going to have 2-up weapon skill, 3-up ballistic skill as well. He's only going to have 3 attacks, but he's going to have 4 wounds again. He's going to have a plasma pistol, a normal plasma pistol. He's got an Artificer Crozius, so he's going to be doing 8 strength +2, AP -2, 2 damage with his Crozius, which is pretty good. Then he's got a couple of different abilities there. So Spiritual Leader, friendly Black Templar units can use this model's leadership characteristic instead of their own when they're within 6 inches of him. Pretty good. This model can attempt to resist 1 psychic power in your opponent's psychic phase in the same manner as a Psyker by taking a Deny the Witch test. So it's not on a 1d6, it's a full-on Deny the Witch, so it's 2d6 trying to deny it, which is great. Because you don't have access to Librarians, so this gives you the ability to bring him and be able to hopefully deny some psychic powers there. And then you've got Unmatched Zeal. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in a friendly Black Templars unit within 6 inches of this model, on an unmodified hit roll of 6, you can make 1 additional attack against the same unit using the same weapon. This additional attack cannot generate another attack. So exploding 6s within 6 inches of him and in close combat, which is really great. And then he's got his 4+ Rosaria save, which is nice. And then Priest abilities here. Model knows the litany of hate, see below, and either 2 litanies from the litanies of battle, which is the regular one, or 2 litanies from the litanies of the devout, which I will get to in a second here. At the start of the battle round, this model can recite 2 litanies it knows that have not already been recited by a friendly model that battle round. Roll 1d6 on a 3+. The recited litany is inspired and takes effect until the end of the battle round. So he's going to be able to put up 2, and we'll get to in a second what that means with the litanies of the devout. Then you've got the Cenobite servitors down here. They're basic servitors here. Models of this unit have the weapon skill, ballistic skill characteristic of 4+, and a leadership characteristic of 9, whilst the unit is within 6 inches of Chaplain Grimaldus. So they're going along with the Chaplain there, getting a little bit better. Chaplain's retinue. If your army is battleforged, this unit does not take up slots in a detachment that includes Chaplain Grimaldus. So pretty cool there. Just add them onto that. Then you've got the relic of Hell's Reach. When a model in a friendly Black Templar unit that is within 6 inches of this unit would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll 1d6 on a 4+. That wound is not lost. This is not cumulative with any other rules that allow a model to not lose wounds as a result of a mortal wound. So basically you're getting a 4+ feel no pain, but you can't use other abilities to ignore wounds. So no other feel no pains are going to give you a benefit there. And then you've got the Crusader Squad. So gaining back the specialty squad that the Black Templars get there. So essentially you've got 1 sword brother and 4 initiates. It can additionally contain up to 5 initiates. It can additionally contain up to 5 initiates or up to 10 neophytes. It can contain up to 5 initiates. It can also contain up to 5 neophytes or up to 10 neophytes. Every model is equipped with a bolt pistol, bolt gun, frag grenades, and crack grenade. So essentially here, you've got initiate and neophyte and a sword brother. They're all going to be 3+ weapon skill, ballistic skill. They've all got the same strength, toughness, and wounds. The sword brother has 1 additional attack, but then their leadership, you've got initiate has a 7+ leadership, 8+ for the sword brother. Neophytes have a 6+ leadership, and their saves are 4+ for the neophytes there. So essentially, the neophytes are just like your scouts there. They've got the carapace armor there as opposed to the power armor, and you can just mix them in there, which is pretty fun. They got their ability to swap out their weapons, which is kind of interesting. Pair combatants. Whilst this unit contains at least as many initiates as neophytes, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a neophyte in this unit, reroll a hit roll of 1. So as long as you've got the same number of initiates as neophytes, at least as many initiates as neophytes, those neophytes are rerolling hit rolls of 1, which is pretty fun to get them in there. Then we've got the litanies of the devout. Essentially, this is a Black Templars specific set of litanies that they can choose from, which is pretty awesome. It works super thematically for the Black Templars. That they would have their own litanies of battle that they're going into there with their chaplains, which is super fun. So let's go over them here. We've got Litany of Divine Protection. If this litany is inspiring, select 1 friendly Black Templars unit within 6 inches of this model. When a model in that unit would lose a wound, roll 1d6, and a 5+, that wound is not lost. So essentially giving you a 5+, feel no pain, which is pretty good within 6 inches. You got Psalm of the Remorseless Persecution. If this litany is inspiring, then when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in a friendly Black Templars unit, within 6 inches of the model, reroll a wound roll of 1. So rerolling 1s to wound within 6 inches, which is always super helpful. You've got Vow of Retribution. This litany is inspiring. Subtract 2 from the leadership characteristics of models in enemy units whilst their unit is within 6 inches of this model. That could become super effective, especially if you're going in and trying to make units run away against like low leadership. So maybe like if you've got Tau in there, or you've got Orcs is difficult because they've got as much leadership as they've got boys out there, which is always hard to run through. But sometimes if you're putting in like 20 wounds if you put like 20 wounds onto an Orc squad of 30 boys, so they've got 10 boys left there. They did 20 if they're next to another squad with like 15. They've got a leadership of 15 with that 20. You plus 2 more running away can make a big difference. Then you've got Fires of Devotion. If this litany is inspiring, select 1 friendly Black Templars unit within 6 inches of this model. If that unit makes a charge move or perform a heroic intervention, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of models in that unit until the end of the turn. So +1 attack when they charge or heroic intervention, which is going to be piling on top of Shock Assault and any other abilities that they've got going on there, which is, I think, super helpful and effective. It's 1 unit that you get to do it with, but at the same time, if you're making a particular attack, say with the Emperor's Champion or something like that, give him +1 attack with all of those other buffs that he's getting there, and he could really become a monster. That 1 extra attack can make a big difference, especially if you're doing D3 damage. Then you've got Fervent Acclamation. If this litany is inspiring, add 3 inches to the range of friendly Black Templars units aura abilities whilst they're within 6 inches of this model. That's super cool. This is probably one of my favorite ones that they've got in these litanies. Essentially, it becomes a massive force multiplier here because there's so many relics out there that help you put 3 inches onto the range of your abilities there. I use it all the time with my Gene Stealer cult to give my Primus +3 inches to his abilities there, which becomes super helpful if you're deep striking them in there and keeping them. You don't have to like daisy chain back a unit of models to get there. You can throw everyone into the combat and still be within the 9 inches to get the benefits. But this, he just sits back there with a whole bunch of other characters just buffing out their auras. So his aura is going to be add 3 inches to the range of friendly Black Templar units aura abilities whilst they're within 6 inches of this model. It makes you wonder. I'm not sure because he would be a friendly Black Templar unit. And his aura for this, would that increase that to 9 inches? I don't know. It says specifically 6 inches, but then again, all the other aura abilities saved within 6 inches or whatever. But regardless, that's a super cool way to super amplify like the abilities of Grimaldus and Helbrecht there, just buffing it out to 9 inches there without having to give them specific relics to do so. That extra 3 inches makes a big difference. Then you've got Oath of Glory. If this litany is inspiring, select one friendly Black Templars unit within 6 inches of this model. That unit always fights first in the fight phase, even if it did not make a charge move. That could be helpful. It's very situational. I would definitely take Fervent Acclamation before I would take that, but I mean, maybe if you're running multiple chaplains in an army there, you can have one that's going to be sitting back with your dude bros, giving them plus 3 inches, and you can have another one that's just picking out, maybe taking those two in particular, and he's picking out certain people to allow them to do extra attack, and then you're fighting first. Doesn't matter if you're charged, doesn't matter if you're locked in combat on your opponent's turn, you get to go first, which is really fun. So a cool set of litanies. I think that's awesome, and I think this will be fun to see if they continue putting these kind of rules out going forward. I know this is kind of like the Black Templars supplement that they've got going on here, but it'd be interesting to see if they continue out with certain things like this to really make different forces different like that. Then we got a bunch of Warlord traits going on here. So we got Oathkeeper. This Warlord can perform a heroic intervention if there are any enemy units within 6 inches of them instead of 3 inches, and when doing so can move up to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. So 6-inch heroic intervention, which is super nice. That's what the Space Wolves get there. Pretty good Warlord trait there. Epitome of Piety. This Warlord can attempt to resist one psychic power in your opponent's psychic phase in the same manner as a psyker that's making a Deny the Witch test. Add one when a Deny the Witch test is taken for this Warlord, add 1 to the total. So it's +1 to the Deny the Witch and being able to make a Deny the Witch, which is super beneficial there. You got Paragon of Fury. After the Warlord finishes a charge move, for each enemy unit within 1 inch of this Warlord, roll a d6. On a 2+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. I mean, it's like exploding in there. It's like the Land Raider's ability to charge on in there doing that, but it's on a 2+. I mean, usually this is going to go onto like a small based model that's going to be charging in there. Situationally pretty good. I guess if you, I don't know. I feel like Oathkeeper is probably a better choice there, or even Epitome of Piety, unless you're going against, I guess, Necrons or something like that, or Tau that just have no psychic abilities. But yeah, pretty good, but not. I don't think it's a big one there. You got Master of Arms. This Warlord always fights first in the fight phase, even if they did not charge, and you go back and forth. So basically, give him fight first all the time, which is pretty good, especially for a lot of your guys here. It looks like they're going for very close combat heavy Black Templars here. So that would be super beneficial, especially if you buff him up with a bunch of other things, like making him one of the masters of the masters. If you make him like one of the masters of the chapter there. Then you've got Inspirational Fighter. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a friendly Black Templars unit within 6 inches of this Warlord, on an unmodified wound roll of a 6, improve the armor penetration characteristic of that weapon for that attack by 1. Which would be pretty fun to pile that on top of the Assault Doctrine there. So suddenly now that sword is going to be AP minus, like a regular power sword's AP -5 on a wound roll of a 6. That's pretty good. That's going to go through anybody's armor unless they got this invul save. They're not getting any saves there. So that could be pretty powerful. It also basically gives you ability to have the Assault Doctrine even when the Assault Doctrine is not on. So as you're making your way up to the Assault Doctrine, you're still getting the benefits of it with that AP -1. I guess not pistols, but still the close combat weapons. Then you've got Frontline Commander. When a friendly Black Templars unit within 6 inches of this Warlord advances or makes a charge move, add 1 to the advanced roll or charge roll. So +1 to advance and charge is super, super good. I mean, when I'm running my knights, I'm always giving them the Land Strider, which is +2 to those. But at the same time, you know, these guys getting +1 is always beneficial. I mean, when you deep strike in there, you just need to get an 8-inch charge. It makes a big difference. That's why I run Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor with my Gene Stealer Cult. Just even though I only get it when I first drop in, these guys will get it all the time, that +1, as long as they're within 6 inches of him. So that's a pretty good one there. The special characters, so Helbrecht has Frontline Commander, so he gives him the +1. Grimaldus is going to have Epitome of Piety, so he's going to be denying the witch there. And then you've got the Emperor's Champion is going to be Oathkeeper, so he's going to have the performing heroic interventions within 6 inches there. And then I think Grimaldus, if I wasn't mistaken, he can resist 1 psychic power, deny the witch test. So that would be, yeah. So it'd get an additional one there. So I don't think that's included in that power. So he'll be able to deny 2, which is pretty interesting there. And I guess you would just have to choose which one would get the +1. Yeah, you would get 2, and then you could decide which when a deny the witch test is taken. Oh no, he would get a +1 for all of them, because it says when a deny the witch test is taken for this warlord. So he gets to deny 2 at +1, which is super beneficial, especially if you're going against smite spam and you just need something to keep from dying before you can get into close combat with them. That would be a good thing to have. Then we got some stratagems going on here. So we've got Abhor the Witch. Use this stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase when it's for 1 CP. When an enemy psyker model manifests a psychic power within 24 inches of any Black Templars units from your army. After any deny the witch attempts have been made, roll 1d6 on a 4+, that psychic power is resisted. So you can still try to deny it. And if you fail to deny the witch, then you can spend the 1 CP, and on a 4+, 50-50 chance of it just being ignored. So if there's something that you really do not want to happen, you can try to deny it with Grimaldus, and then you can just go in there and be like, all right, well, he failed it. Let's try it again with this on a 4+. I'm going to ignore it there. So that's pretty cool. Or if they roll really high, say they roll double 6s, and you know that you're not going to be able to deny it even with your +1, you would have to roll double 6s yourself. You can say, I'm going to hold off on his deny the witch and just hold it off to someone else, and then I'm going to spend my 1 CP and just give a 50-50 chance of ignoring it. But you can't spend the 50-50 chance and then try to deny it. It has to be the other way around. So but it just gives you a little bit of a leeway working with that stuff. Then you've got Crusader Relics, 1 CP, basically giving their Sergeant or Sword Brother the ability to take certain relics that we're going to get to in a second. 1 CP, Devout Push. Use the stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Select 1 Black Templars infantry unit or 1 Black Templars biker unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, that unit can pile in, and when that unit consolidates, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. So, this is interesting. I'm wondering if, so it says here, until the end of the phase, so let's take out the when that unit consolidates. Until the end of that phase, that unit can pile in, and it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. Because it's basically meaning that when you consolidate and pile in, you can move 6 inches instead of 3 inches. I wonder if this allows you to pile in even if you weren't able to be elected as a unit, activated as a unit, or until the end of phase, that unit can pile in, and when that unit consolidates, it can move up to 6 inches. That unit can pile in, and when that unit consolidates, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. And when, all right, so I think this allows you to pile in even if you haven't, but maybe only the 3 inches, and when that unit consolidates, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3. So you can pile in, and then you can consolidate 6 inches instead of 3. I think that's how it's reading. This one's a little confusing to me here. I think it does allow you to pile in even if you weren't within 1 inch of an enemy unit or made a charge, which is kind of interesting. It might be a way to get around having to do that. But you wouldn't have. You would. I guess if you pile in, you could then fight if you're within an inch because you didn't declare. It's not like you charged and it wasn't a unit that you declared as a charge. This one's interesting. This one's going to be. I'm wondering if this is a way to get you into combat more regularly for 1 CP. For 1 CP, it's pretty good, especially if you've got a big unit that's trying to get past a bunch of flamers. This might be a way to just basically ignore that. But interesting. That's an interesting one. Because pile-in would happen after the charge phase. So you can't use it to, like... You wouldn't be able to lock down a unit from overwatching. So you can't use this to, like, absorb the overwatch for other units trying to charge in. But you would be able to pile in. It does make it sound like you would be able to pile in during the fight phase. Because it's at the stratagem at the start of the fight phase. This is after the charge phase. So you're not going to lock down someone's overwatch, so you can always overwatch it anyone else is charging in. But that one unit that you spend this 1 CP on should be able to then pile in even though they didn't charge or are within an inch of an enemy unit. Because it doesn't say if you are piling in. It says until the end of that phase, that unit can pile in. And when that unit consolidates, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. So when you're consolidating, you can move 6 inches. Pile in would still stay at 3 inches. But if that 3 inches gets you into combat, you should be able to attack. Because otherwise, you wouldn't be able to consolidate any more than the 1 inch base. Or I guess I don't know. This one's confusing. I think it, to me, it sounds like it allows you to pile in even though you didn't charge or were charged. Basically, almost like a heroic intervention kind of situation there. Except it can be used at any of the fight phases. Then you've got Tenacious Assault. Use this stratagem in the movement phase when an enemy infantry unit that does not have the flyer battlefield roll. I don't think any infantry would have the flyer battlefield roll. And is within 1 inch of any Black Templars infantry unit from your army is chosen to fall back. Roll 1d6 on a 2+, that unit cannot fall back. Oh, that's pretty fun. It's for 2 CP. You can lock in a unit so they can't fall back. So essentially, if you're being very aggressive with a unit, you run up there and you assault, or you take a hostage or something like that, or you pile into another unit for 2 CP on a 2+, you can keep them from falling back. So that means that they're not going to be able to shoot them on their shooting phase, and then you should hopefully be able to kill them on their fight phase, and then you can charge into another unit on your assault phase. So that's kind of interesting. I like that one a lot. 2 CP, lock them in there. You can't fall back. Good luck dealing with me. You got to fight me now, Tau. Good luck. Then you've got 1 CP for the Emperor's Will. Use this stratagem in your movement phase when a Black Templars infantry unit from your army advances. Until the end of the turn, models from that unit can still shoot with their pistol weapons, and that unit can still charge. So charge in advance and shoot their pistols, which is really fun. Especially if you've got like a Crusader Squad that's just like, heave-hoeing down the board there, advance them up, shoot with the pistols, and then charge in, which is super cool. Then you got Oaths of Honor for 1 CP. Use the stratagem in the fight phase. Select one Black Templar scout unit from your army that made a charge move or was charged this turn. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit, you can reroll the wound roll. So basically you have a scout with scout units, allows them for 1 CP to reroll wound rolls. Super situational. It depends upon who charged them or who they charged for 1 CP if it's worth it. I mean, it's a scout squad. Mostly you're not going to be... I mean, maybe you can run them as a 10-man scout squad with the extra close combat weapon. Get them in there with some of the other stuff, some of the other buffs that they've got going on here, and they might become a real force there, especially for that 1 CP reroll the wound roll, which is pretty fun. Then you've got Vicious Riposte for 1 CP. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Black Templars infantry unit from your army is chosen as the target of an attack. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made against that unit, on an unmodified save roll of a 6, the attacking model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound after that unit has finished fighting. So that's super cool, especially if you were, if you've got like a unit there that has a bunch of 3-up armor, but they get assaulted maybe by like orc boys, where they're throwing like a gajillion different attacks into you over there. So yeah, that's super good. Even if you're going to die, it doesn't make a difference there. You just have to make an unmodified save roll of a 6. So say an entire squad of orcs is now just like a 30-man boy squad, just got the charge, got the jump on you, charged into your squad there. You spend 1 CP, and every 6 that you roll for those saves do a mortal wound. They suffer 1 mortal wound after they've done fighting. So they're going to continue fighting. That whole unit gets to keep fighting, but for every 6 that you make, they're going to die. They're going to take a mortal wound. I mean, with the amount of attacks that are coming into you there, you're going to be doing a big number there, especially if they've got like they're going to be attacking first. You're probably going to die. You're not going to get your swings back. This is a good way to make it hurt for them as well as hurt for you. So, I mean, on average there, if they're getting 60 hits with all their orc attacks in on you, you're going to be getting 10 mortal wounds on them, which is not bad for 1 CP. And obviously, other situations might be helpful too, but that one in particular makes a big difference. Or if you're getting like, happy feet stomped by a knight, that would be super cool to be able every 6 that you make. You may not be able to save it, or I guess 6 it would be a save, but still, doing some mortal wounds in there after you're going to die anyway, it doesn't hurt at all. Then you've got Shock and Awe for 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your charge phase. Select 1 Black Templars infantry unit from your army that disembarked from a Land Raider Crusader this turn. Until the end of that turn, enemy units cannot fire Overwatch at the selected unit, and when resolving an attack made against that unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So if you disembark from that Land Raider, you shoot the Land Raider Crusader up the board, disembark the unit, they can't Overwatch that unit, they're going to be -1 to hit in the fight phase, which is pretty cool. I think that's worth it for 1 CP, and you use that in the charge phase, so, you don't have to make that decision until you're actually going to be charging them in there, which is fun. Because if your Crusader goes a little too ham and then knocks them out of charge range, you didn't waste the CP if they're not going to make it in there. Then we've got some relics for them over here. So we've got the Crusader's Helm. Add 3 inches to the range of a model with this relic's aura ability to a maximum of 12 inches. In addition, at the start of your movement phase, select 1 friendly Black Templars unit that has a Combat Doctrines ability and is within 6 inches of this model. Until the start of your next movement phase, the Assault Doctrine becomes active for that unit, replacing the current active Combat Doctrines. So that's pretty cool, especially if you're being very aggressive. You throw that onto somebody who's giving you a good aura buff there, and you keep him next to the person with the litanies that is going to be increasing it by 3 inches again, and suddenly now you've got like a 12-inch aura for their abilities there, and you get to choose a unit, a friendly Black Templars unit that's going to be getting the Combat Doctrines, which is super fun to have ability go off there. Then you've got Witch Seeker Bolts, which is another one here. Select 1 bolt weapon this model is equipped with. When the bearer shoots with that weapon, you can choose for it to fire a Witch Seeker round. If you do, you can only make 1 attack with that weapon, but that attack can target a Psyker character on unit, even if it is not the closest enemy unit. When resolving an attack made with a Witch Seeker round against a Psyker unit, if a hit is scored, the target suffers D3 mortal wounds in addition to any other damage. So that's super fun. You get to use that to try to shoot into maybe like a Librarian Dreadnought against Blood Angels or something like that. You throw that in there, and if you get that hit on a 2+ on this shot, they're going to take D3 mortal wounds in addition to anything else there. So it may be hard to wound them, but you're doing D3 mortal wounds on top there. Or if you're just shooting into a regular guy with the bolt round there, you shoot it with maybe a Stalker bolt, like a Mastercrafted Stalker bolt rifle. You throw that in there, and suddenly now you're almost gonna you can. There's the possibility of just one-shotting a regular Psyker there with the 4 wounds that they might have, which is pretty fun to have there. Yeah, I think this would be super fun to put onto like a Primaris Lieutenant maybe with a Mastercrafted Stalker bolt rifle, or you throw this onto maybe use this because this is one of the options that you have. The Crusader relics, you can put this onto a Sergeant with a Mastercrafted with a Stalker bolt rifle, and suddenly now they've got 36 inches that you have there. Shooting that in there, you're doing D3 in addition, and it basically gives them the sniper rule for Psykers. That's super cool, especially if you're going off against a Psyker heavy list. So if you're going against like a Thousand Suns list or any kind of Chaos Soup list that might have the smite spam going on there, that would be super helpful there. And then you've got the Aurelian Shroud. Once per battle, at the start of the battle round, a model with this relic can unveil the Aurelian Shroud. Until the end of this battle round, models in friendly Black Templars units have a 4+ invul save, whilst their unit is within 3 inches of a model with this relic. 4+ invul save is nice, but 1 battle round, I don't know if I'd waste my relic for that, especially since it's only within 3 inches. I guess maybe if you're really castling up, that might be super helpful, especially, actually, you know what? This might be helpful, if you have, but I mean, it's not super Black Templar-y, but say you wanted to have just a repulsor bubble that you're really castling up there, that first turn, if you lose that, if you fail the roll to go first, and you're going against something like a Castellan or something with a whole lot of shooting there, you could pop that, and now you've got a 4-up invul save for all those guys that are around you there, because it doesn't say Black Templars infantry, it's just Black Templars units. So 4-up invul save against like a whole bunch of shooting like a Castellan's going to bring might be beneficial for there. But I mean, again, situational. I'm not sure if one battle round is worth it at that point. Then you've got Ancient Breviary. It's a chaplain model only. When a roll is made to determine if a litany recited by a model with this relic is inspiring, you can roll 2d6 and discard one of the results. So making it more reliable to get off those litanies that we talked about before. So these guys are definitely chaplain heavy, with a lot of their emphasis with the relics and the warlord traits and everything else they've got there, but their own set of litanies that they've got going on, which is pretty cool to see that going on, which is also very Black Templary to have that. Then you've got the skull of Cacodamnus, whatever, however you pronounce that. Once per battle, after a psychic power has been manifested by an enemy psyker model within 12 inches of a model with this relic, roll 1d6. On a 2+, that model suffers d3 mortal wounds after that psychic power has been resolved. Pretty cool. You can use that to double down if they perils themselves. They're doing D3 and then an additional D3. Or you can use it to just get down the last wounds off a psyker there. Against this once per battle, so it's the same thing as the Aurelian Shroud, but I like this one better just because of the ability that it takes to pop off. And I'm just imagining if you're going off against, like I said, against Thousand Suns or something like that, but they've got a whole bunch of smite spam and dude bros like popping into your face over there. I think that'd be super powerful, super handy to have the ability to do that. And then you got the Sword of Judgment, model with a power sword or mastercrafted power sword only. Where it replaces that, becomes strength +1, AP -3, 3 damage. That's super good. I mean, you can't really beat that. That's pretty good there. Going over the points for everything here, you got Grimaldus is 90 points, 150 for Helbrecht, and 75 for the Emperor's Champion, which is, I think, not bad on any of those there. The Crusader Squad is basically the same thing as you're going to get for Tactical and for Scouts there. 13 Neophytes are 11. And then you've got the Cenobite Servitors are 2 points per model, models per unit 3, so not bad. And then you've got your tactical objectives that you've got here. I'm not really going to go over those ones. There's some pretty cool stuff they got there. And then you got your name generator as always. So you've got I can be Otto Stabian if I want to be, and that sounds good to me. Then in addition, this book is like chock full of different rules that you've got going on here. We've got the Heretic Astartes, where they go into a whole bunch of different rules for them, which should be interesting to see how they do this. So you've got Champions of Ruin, Chaos Space Marine Heretic Astartes units, excluding cultists, and Fallen units gain the following additional abilities. So this is giving it to all Heretic Astartes and Fallen, which is kind of interesting. Instead of following the normal rules for rapid-fire weapons, models in this unit firing rapid-fire bolt weapons make double the number of attacks if any of the following apply. So it basically gives them the same better bolter beta rule that they've got there going on here, which is kind of cool there. They've got Hateful Assault. That's made a charge move, charge, perform heroic intervention, +1 to the attacks characters to the model of the unit. So basically, Hateful Assault is going to be whatchamacallit, is just Shock Assault they've got there. And then Demon Weapons, selection of relics presented on the following page represents a collection of demon weapons. These are additional artifacts of chaos available to the Chaos Space Marines. If your army is led by a Chaos Space Marine Warlord, you can give one of them to a Chaos Space Marine character model from your armies as you would an artifact of chaos. Note that the weapons replace one of the character's existing weapons. You must, if you're playing match play rules, still pay for the weapons, blah, blah, blah. Updated weaponry. Since the publication of Codex Space Marines, the character's profile of the Demolisher Cannon has changed. It is now the following. The Demolisher Cannon is now 24 inches, heavy D6, strength 10, AP -3, D6 damage. So they've just got it updated. All the new rules basically are just plopped down into this book here for the Chaos Space Marines. So let's go over the demon weapons that you have the ability to choose here. The artifact characters listed are following abilities addition to any others listed in the profile. Demon weapons. In the fight phase, when this model is chosen to fight with is chosen to fight with for the first time that phase. So again, berserkers, if they have their 2 attacks, only the first time are the demon weapons going to make a difference here. Roll 1d6. On a 1, the model suffers 1 mortal wound and cannot use this weapon further this phase. On a 2+, the model can fight with the weapon as normal. So if you're if you've got him on a berserker there, the second time you don't have to roll to see if you can fight with them. Or I guess so if you pass it the first time, you don't have to roll for a second time to see if they pass it to use it again. They'll just get to use it the second time without having to right there. So let's go over this. So you've got Kudak, the Boundless. Kuak, the Boundless, is a Tzeentch model with Power Sword, Hellforged Sword, or Force Sword only. The relic replaces them with the following profile. Strength user, AP -3, D3 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, invulnerable saves cannot be made. So that's pretty cool. AP -3 and no invul saves are really going to get through a lot of different things. So that's kind of a fun thing to have there for Tzeentch abilities there. You got Tharis and Riol, the Rapacious Talons, Slaanesh only, with 2 Lightning Claws or 2 sets of Malefic Talons only. They get changed. They replace it to Strength User, AP -2, 2 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, you can reroll wound rolls. When ruling for this weapon's demon weapon ability on a 2+, you can make a number of additional attacks equal to the result of this weapon with this weapon for this phase. So that's pretty cool. So when you make that demon weapon roll, if you on a 2+, so if you roll the 1, you can't use them and you get hurt. But if you roll a 2+, you get that many rolls. So if you roll a 6 for that, you're gonna have 6 additional attacks with this weapon, which is Strength User, AP -2, 2 damage. And I mean, it's 2 sets of Malefic Talons there. Put that onto a Demon Prince there, a Slaanesh Demon Prince. They're gonna do a number on people there with 2 damage apiece. That's Primaris killers right there, which is pretty cool. You got Zal the Wrathful, Khorne model, with Power Sword or Hellforged Sword only. Turns it into Strength User, AP -5, 2 damage. When rolling for this weapon's demon weapon ability, on a 2+, add a number to this weapon's strength characteristic equal to the result until the end of this phase. So again, instead of just the number of attacks that Slaanesh gets, Khorne gets strength. So if you roll that 6, you're now going to get strength +6, which is, oof, man, that's awesome. That's super great. So you're going to have Strength User. So, if you've got a regular, normal Chaos Space Marine, you're Strength 10, AP -5, 2 damage. Not bad. Then you've got Gholak's Fist of Decay, Nurgle model with a Power Fist only. Makes it Strength × 2, AP -3, 3 damage. So it's flat 3 damage. Resolving an attack made with this weapon, subtract 1 from the hit roll, and an unmodified wound roll of a 2+. This and an unmodified wound roll of 2+ is always successful. Ooh, that's super nice. That's fun. You put that onto somebody that's going to go and punch into a knight. Usually it would be at, I guess, at Strength × 2. Normally you're looking at a 4+ to wound. Now on a 2+ to wound, you're wounding a knights. You're wounding anybody over there. Punch into that repulsor. Boom, 2+, taking 3 damage, which is pretty great. AP -3 makes a big difference. And then you've got Uloka, the Black Axe. I feel like they wrote it like this just to make my life difficult. Because if you're doing it, you just go with the Black Axe or the Fist of Decay, the Wrathful. But because I had to read it out loud, I think they were just trying to make my life difficult here. Model with a Power Axe, Force Axe, or Demonic Axe only. Not specific to any of the... So you've got one for each of the different gods, and then you've got one that's universally allowed there with the axe. It's going to be Strength User, AP 0, 1 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of 4+ inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any other damage. So I guess you're just, on a 4+, you're doing a mortal wound, which is not, it's not bad. I don't know. That seems weird. Not sure I would really choose that one there just because of the fact that everything else is doing multiple damage on there. And I know that they get their saves, and this is going to be doing a mortal wound, but it's, I don't know. They could have at least done the 2+, since that's always wounding on a 2+. Whatever. It sounds good. You can take that if you want to. I probably wouldn't. So now let's go into the specific ones for the different Traitor Legions. So we've got Word Bearers here. Rules presented in this section are intended to be used in addition to those presented in the Chaos Space Marines Codex. if you chose to take any Word Bearer's detachments. A Word Bearer's detachment is still treated as a Chaos Space Marine detachment for the purpose of the stratagems, artifacts of Chaos, and Warlord traits presented in Codex Chaos Space Marines. The following edition rules apply. You can take certain Warlord traits. If a Word Bearer's character model in your Warlord, you can use the Warlord traits on the table on the opposite page. So we'll get to that in a second. Stratagems. You can use, there's specific Word Bearers stratagems that are going to be done here. Artifacts of the Word Bearers, again, we'll get into that there. Then we've got tactical objectives as well and a name generator. So let's go over the Word Bearers Warlord traits that you have access to now. You've got Voice of Lorgar, add 3 inches to the range of the Warlord's aura abilities. I've already talked about how good having plus 3 inches to auras is for that. You've got Exalted Possession. This Warlord gains the Possessed and Demon keywords if they don't already have them. Add 1 to the Strength and Attacks characteristics of this Warlord, and add 1 inch to this Warlord's Move characteristic. That's pretty good. Essentially making your guy a Possessed Demon, which is kind of fun. So they're going to have that, which is +1 Strength and +1 Attack is always fun for guys that are going up there and just ripping things to shreds. Then you've got Demonic Whispers. If your army is Battleforged, roll 1d3 before battle begins. You gain a number of additional command points equal to the result. Once per battle, if this Warlord is on the battlefield, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll saving throw. So essentially, it's like the old ones that you used to have where you can try to gain back CP, except now it's just giving you D3 additional command points as opposed to having to try to roll for them. So yes, with the ability to gain them back, there was the possibility of getting more. I guess if you're playing like a 5-round game, you had the possibility of getting back 5 and you're only getting D3 this time. But there were a number of games that I've had where I got back 0 of them with that ability. So this is definitely going to give you at least 1 back, if not possibility of getting 3. And you get that free reroll during the game. And then you got Master of the Union. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of models in friendly Word Bearers demon units, whilst this unit is within 6 inches of the Warlord. So +1 attack for demon units, which is pretty good. And then you've got Diabolist. When this Warlord would lose a wound, roll a 1d6, adding 3 to the result if that wound would be lost as a result of a mortal wound. On a 6+, the wound is not lost. So adding 3 to it, that's pretty good. So you're saving mortal wounds on the 3+ and regular wounds on a 6+. So 6+ feel no pain, 3+ if it's mortal wounds. That's pretty good. I like that one a lot. And then you've got Sacrilegious Regeneration. Add 1 to the Warlord's wound characteristic. At the start of your turn, this Warlord regains up to D3 lost wounds. Ooh, that's fun. A +1 wound and then regenning each turn. Super fun. Also easy to forget, which I would probably forget, but if you remember, that could be super fun. I like that one a lot there. Now let's go over the Word Bearer stratagems. So we've got for 1 CP, Dark Pact. Use this stratagem at the end of the movement phase when a Word Bearer's character model from your army attempts to summon a unit of demons to the battlefield using a demonic ritual. When making the summoning roll for that attempt, you can reroll the dice, and this character model will not suffer any mortal wounds for rolling doubles or triples. So that's pretty cool. It keeps you from taking the mortal wounds for trying to shoot for the stars, and you can also reroll the dice if you just totally flub it and don't get what you need for there. So that's pretty nice, especially if you roll like a 111. That would really be painful with that. So getting to do that is pretty cool there. So that's a good one to have there, especially if you're running like the Word Bearers just summoning stuff there. I think that'd be fun to have. Then you've got Malevolent Covenant. Use this stratagem in your psychic phase after a Word Bearer Psyker unit from your army fails a psychic test. The power is automatically manifested by that Psyker unit at the minimum required warp charge value and without a double having been rolled, and cannot be resisted by a Deny the Witch attempt. After resolving the effects of the psychic power, that Psyker unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So essentially, is if you need this to go, if you need something to go off. So say you've got a the bear one that you could use is if you have an enemy unit that's within range there for smite, and they've got 1 wound left, and you need to get that off of them, and you fail your smite roll there. You can spend 1 CP. You're going to take 1 mortal wound, but you're going to be doing D3 mortal wounds to them, and you can pop them off the board. It becomes like a self-sacrificial thing there if you need it to happen. So the power will go off, cannot be denied, but you're taking 1 mortal wound for for that benefit. For 1 CP, I think that's super worth it. I've taken that many times in the past. Then you got for 1 CP, Apostle of the Dark Council. Use the stratagem before the battle. Select one Wordbearer's Priest model from your army. That model gains the following ability, Dark Council. This model knows one additional prayer from the prayers of the Dark Gods and can chant one additional prayer at the start of the battle round. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. So that's pretty cool. So getting +1 ability, +1 prayer of the Dark Gods, and you get to do one additional prayer, which is fun. Really buffing up those priests there. Then you got 2 CP, Cursed Despoilers. Use the stratagem after deployment, but before the first battle round begins. If a Wordbearer's unit from your army is on the battlefield, select one terrain feature other than a fortification. Units entirely on or within that terrain feature do not gain the benefit of cover to their saving throws. So that's fun. Use that at the beginning of the deployment phase, after the deployment phase, but before the first battle round begins. So say your opponent like castled up around a certain piece of terrain, a certain ruins, and they're sitting on there and they're going to try to really hope for the benefit of cover for that. All of a sudden you throw Cursed Despoilers onto it for 2 CP, and now they're not getting any benefit there. So now those eliminators that thought they were going to have their +2 to their saves because they were in cover, boom, they don't get any of that. So that can really make a big difference to especially if you're going against like a gun line or someone who's really castling up hard. That could really make a big difference there, which would be kind of interesting that you can do that. For 1 CP, Revered Hosts. Use this stratagem at the fight phase. When a Wordbearer's possessed unit or Wordbearer's greater possessed unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons models in that unit are equipped with. 1 CP +1 damage. That could be really super beneficial, super powerful if you use it correctly. Then you've got, for 1 CP, Hexagrammatic Ward. Use this stratagem in any phase after making a saving throw for a Wordbearer's character model from your army. Treat the result of that saving throw as 6. Each Wordbearer's character model from your army can only be the target of this stratagem once per battle. So basically, after making a saving throw for the Wordbearer's character model in your army. So essentially what you do is, for 1 CP, if you fail that save, so say you happen to get shot in the face with like a Vindicare Assassin's bullet, you need that 6 to save. You fail that save for 1 CP, boom, it counts as a 6. They save it, but you can only use it once per character per battle. Pretty good for certain situations. Like I said, if you want to use it, like you get shot in the face with a Vindicare Assassin, or if you're unlucky enough to have one of your characters shot in the face with a las cannon, that could be super helpful. And then you've got Vengeance. Vengeance for Monarchia. Monarchia? Yeah, Monarchia. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a Wordbearer's unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit against an Ultramarines unit, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. So specifically against Ultramarines, a lot of different armies have these abilities. Dark Angels have them against the Fallen, blah, blah, blah. If you're fighting Ultramarines, 1 CP, reroll hits and wounds in the fight phase against them, which is pretty cool. Then we got Artifacts of the Wordbearers. We've got the Crown of the Blasphemer. Improve the invulnerable save of a model with this relic by 1 to a maximum of 3+. Subtract 1 from the leadership characteristics of models in enemy units whilst that unit is within 6 inches of this model. Pretty cool. Plus, +1 invul save is pretty good. Maximum of 3+, but still not bad. Not bad at all. I like that one. Baleful Icon. When a charge roll is made for a charge declared against any friendly Wordbearer's units within 6 inches of a model with this relic, subtract 2 from the result. So this is like the opposite of those ones. So basically it's keeping other units from charging into you. So if you're going against those Black Templars who are getting the +1, you're now giving them -2 to their charge rolls. Or if you're going against Gene Stealer Cult, -2 to them charging into you, which is always super helpful if you're trying to keep those assault armies from getting all up in your grill, especially early on when they're deep striking down. When they deep strike down, they have to be 9 inches away. So now they're looking at 11-inch charge. If they get the benefits of pluses or minuses, that's still a tough charge to make at that point, which I think that one's pretty cool, especially if you're running more of a gun line. That would be super helpful to roll with there. Then you got Book of the Reviler, a model that is not a demon only. Before the battle, a model with this relic can read from the Book of the Reviler. If it does, randomly generate 2 Chaos Boons for that model from the table found in the Chaos Boon stratagem. re-rolling Spawndom and Demonhood and duplicate results. Note that doing so does not cost any command points, and an enemy character, vehicle, or monster model does not have to have been destroyed. So pretty cool. I like that ability, getting some boons onto your guys there. There's some super cool fun things you can do with that, but and you're not going to have to worry about turning into a spawn or demon at that point, so that's pretty cool. Then you got Malefic Tome, a psyker model only. A model with this relic knows 1 additional psychic power from the chosen discipline. When a psychic test is taken for the model with the relic, add 1 to the total. So +1 to your tests, and you get to know an additional power. Pretty good. I like that one a lot. These are pretty good. I like these artifacts seem pretty good. Then you got the Ashen Axe, model with a chain axe only. So it's strength +1, AP -2, D3 damage. Enemy units within 1 inch of a model with this relic cannot fall back unless they have the vehicle or titanic keyword or have a minimum move characteristic. So that's pretty cool. If you charge in with your Khorne Berserkers, the enemy can't fall back, and then you lock him into combat there, which is super beneficial if you charge in with your Khorne Berserkers. You declare your charge against the 1 unit, and then you consolidate into the 2nd unit, or even better, if you charge into the 1 unit, consolidate towards the 2nd unit, then use your 2nd activation to consolidate and pile into a second unit. You don't get to attack them; they get to attack you. But if they don't kill you off, that guy now has that axe. They can't fall back unless they have a minimum. So you can't use it to destroy flyers. You can't use it to lock in vehicles or knights or anything like that. But you'd use that to jump into like an infantry squad, and now on their turn they can't shoot you, which is the biggest thing that berserkers have to face. You can't shoot you, and now on their fight phase, you've got berserkers that are just going to go berserk and just like rip things to shreds, what like berserkers do, which would be kind of fun. That would be super good against like regular guardsmen, locking in a squad of guardsmen. If you do that, anything like that would be super beneficial. I like that one a lot. I think that one's going to become super cool, especially if you're running a whole lot of berserkers. I think that's going to be super beneficial. Then you got Epistle of Lorgar. Priest model only. When a model with this relic chants a prayer, you can reroll the dice to determine if that prayer is heard. Add 1 to the leadership characteristic of models in friendly word bearers units, whilst their units within 6 inches of the model. I like that one. I like I said, the abilities that the plus the ability to reroll for the litanies that the Black Templars had. I think that this is along those same lines. I think it's super beneficial, because the problem is any of those things where you have to roll to see if it happens, when it doesn't work, it really sets you back. I mean, you've got 5 rounds to go. If you have 1 round where they don't get to do it, it really hurts. So having the ability to re-roll that really makes a big difference, and I think that would be good. I like all those artifacts. Honestly, all of them I feel like are super beneficial. I think they could all really help you. I know you've only got you've got basically the one that you can give, but I think all of them are super helpful. All of them help you with certain situations that are very specific. But I think they can all do some really great stuff, which is great. Then you've got their tactical objectives that they got here access to, and you've got their name generator. I'm going to be Karad Vondar. Sounds good to me. I like that. I like these. I know people joke about the name generators, how they're there's no use for them. I think they're fun. I think they're really cool. I think they'd be super helpful if you're trying to put together any kind of story about these guys, or if you're putting together some kind of narrative campaign. Just naming some of your characters, naming some of the people that you've got going on there, just makes it fun. I mean, I've got Jenkins the Scout. Giving him a name really adds to the story that you get to go with them there. So now we're going to go on to the Night Lords. So again, the same thing. They've got access to all these things that they didn't normally have access to. So let's go into what their Warlord traits are here. So we've got Night Haunter's Curse. Once per battle round, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, damage roll, advance roll, charge roll, or saving throw made for this Warlord. So a free reroll per round, which is pretty good. Per battle round. So it would be, battle round number 1. So not each player turn, but each battle round, which is that's super helpful. I think that's super exciting to be able to use that stuff. Then you got one piece at a time. This Warlord can charge in a turn in which they fell back. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon against this Warlord, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So -1 to hit, and he can charge when they fall back, which is nice because you can use a Warlord to go in, lock them down on their turn. If you don't kill them, fall back, shoot into them, and then charge right back in, and then hopefully lock them in on their turn again. Super cool. I like that. Murderous Reputation. When resolving an attack made by this warlord, an unmodified hit roll of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any other damage. I like those. I know they're very situational if you don't roll 6s, like I don't. They might not be as helpful as someone who does roll a lot of 6s, but at the same time, just that ability to just throw some mortal wounds in, if in anything that you're doing normally, you would be doing these attacks anyway, so getting an additional couple mortal wounds would always be super helpful, beneficial. Then we've got Killing Fury. Add D3 to the attack characteristics of this warlord in a turn in which they made a charge move, were charged, or performed a heroic intervention. These additional attacks last until the end of the fight phase. So pretty good. Having D3 additional attacks is always nice, especially on some of the anybody that you're going to put a warlord trait on. They're usually going to have a bunch of attacks doing awesome stuff with some cool weapons. Then you got One with the Shadows. When resolving an attack made against this warlord, whilst they are entirely on or within a terrain feature, add 1 to the saving throw, excluding vulnerable saving throws. Whilst this warlord is entirely on or within a terrain feature, improve its invulnerable save by 1 to a maximum of 3+. Invulnerable save becomes, e.g. a 4+ invulnerable save becomes 3+. Whilst on an attack made against this warlord, whilst they are entirely on or within a terrain feature, add 1 to the saving throws, excluding invulnerable saving throws. Whilst this warlord is entirely on or within a terrain feature, improve its invulnerable save by 1 to a maximum of 3+. Oh, okay. So the regular save can go beyond 3+. The invul save can only go to 3+. That's why they got it separated out there. I was confused there. So basically, you can only ever have a 3+ invul save, but it can knock your 3+ to a 2+, or your 2+ to a 1+, in case they've got some AP going on there. All right, I like that. So an additional save to cover, which is great. Resolving an attack made. Also, you get the benefit of that if you're in close combat as well. It doesn't say anything about only being shooting. So close combat, you get cover save essentially. Same thing with against shooting phase. I guess in shooting, you would get 2 to the save for cover there, and +1 to your invul save. Or in close combat, you get 1 and 1. So not bad. I like that. Dirty Fighter. Again, that's going to keep you alive a lot longer. Dirty Fighter. Whilst there are more friendly models within 3 inches of this warlord than enemy models, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by this warlord, add 1 to the wound roll. So +1 to wound when he's got his bros helping him out, jumping the enemy, which is kind of cool. So if he's running up there with a whole bunch of squads, a bunch of warp talons or something like that, he could do a number there with that +1 to wound roll. All right, let's go over their stratagems they've got going here. We've got in Midnight Clad, 1 CP. Use the stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase. When a Night Lord's infantry unit from your army is targeted by a shooting attack, until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack against that unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So -1 to hit, pretty good. Always helpful to, there's a reason that Alatok Flyers are as popular as they are, is the -1 to hit really makes a big difference. Then for 2 CP, you've got Vox Scream. Use the stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of any Night Lord's units from your army. Until the start of your next movement phase, enemy units cannot be affected by any of the selected units or abilities. Ooh, that's kind of cool. So you could turn off a bunch of the, a bunch of army. If you run up with those guys, you Vox Scream at their Tech Marine or something like that, or their Master of the Forge that they've got there, giving them that invul save. You scream in their face, and now suddenly they're not giving out that invul save, which is super effective. Then you've got 1 CP, Prey on the Weak. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase or the fight phase. When a Night Lord's unit from your army is chosen to shoot or fight with, until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a model in that unit against an enemy unit whose models have a lower leadership characteristic than the attacking model, add 1 to the hit roll. So basically +1 to hit against lower leadership models, which is pretty good. Especially since you're Marines, you're going to probably have higher than a lot of other armies that you've got going out there, which is good. Then you got 1 CP, Hit and Run. Use this stratagem at the start of your charge phase. Select 1 Night Lord's unit from your army. That unit can charge even if it fell back this turn. 1 CP to charge back in after falling back. Again, super helpful to lock in armies, so that they can't shoot you during their phase and then not be locked, or to help you be prevented from being locked in during your phase, because you can fall back even if you want them to fight. Fall back, get your shots off, and then go charge in, which is pretty good. 1 CP for We Have Come For You. Use the stratagem at the start of your opponent's movement phase. Select 1 Night Lord's unit from your army that is not a vehicle. Until the start of your next turn, enemy units within 1 inch of that unit cannot fall back unless they have the vehicle or Titanic keyword or have a minimum move characteristic. So again, the ability to lock in, going back to using like the hit and run and the ability that they had with a Warlord trait. You spend that 1 CP, they can't fall back during their turn. They're locked in combat there. But then on your turn, you can fall back, shoot at them, and then charge into someone else if you so desire, which is pretty fun and pretty effective, I think. 1 CP from the Knight. Use the stratagem at the start of your charge phase. Select 1 Night Lord's infantry unit from your army that is entirely on or within a terrain feature. Until the end of your turn, when a charge roll is made for that unit, add 2 to the result. And when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit, add 1 to the hit rolls. So that's pretty good. So at the start of your charge phase, select 1 Night Lord's infantry unit from your army that is entirely on or within terrain feature. Until the end of the turn, when a charge roll is made for that unit, add 2 to the result. So +2 to the charge, and resolve an attack made with a melee weapon, the model is add 1 to the roll. So for 1 CP, you get +2 to your charge, and you get +1 to the hit rolls. Sure, you have to be in terrain, but I mean, you probably want to be charging through walls anyway, so that you don't have to worry about getting Overwatch, which is super effective. I think that's a good one. I really like that for 1 CP. I like that. I like that one a lot. Raptor Strike for 1 CP. Use the stratagem in your charge phase before making a charge roll for a Night Lord's jump pack unit from your army that was set up on the battlefield as reinforcements this turn. Roll 3d6 for the charge instead of rolling 2d6. So it's like upon Wings of Fire, like for the Blood Angels. Now suddenly you have it as a Night Lord. 3d6. I mean, granted, the first time I ever used that with my Blood Angels, I rolled 3 1s, but that's not usual. So on 3d6, odds are that you're going to make that 9-inch charge that you need to get in there, which is super effective. And if you do it while they're on terrain there for 2 CP, you're only 3d6, and you just need to get a 7, which is pretty good because you get +2 to the roll, to the result over there. Or you can use it with those two, with the +2, to really like fly over a unit and get behind them and lock them in that way, which would be super effective. Flay Them Alive. Use this stratagem 1 CP in the fight phase when an enemy unit is destroyed as a result of an attack made by a Night Lord's model from your army. Until the end of the turn, when a morale test is taken for an enemy unit within 12 inches of the Night Lord's unit, your opponent must roll 1 additional d6, and you can choose one of those dice to be discarded. So that's pretty cool. 1 CP, basically making them roll 2d6 for their roll there. So I guess if you're rolling there, you can you get to choose which one they're going to have, so you can make the most out of what they're going to do. Because what is it with the demons? Is it 6s or some? Yeah, if you roll a 6, or is it if you roll a 1? I can't remember which it is. But you get to decide. So as opposed to discarding the highest. So yeah, that's what it is. I think if you roll a 1 for the morale test for demons, you get back d6. So say they roll like a well, no, I guess you would usually discard the lowest. Anyway, you get to choose which one you want, depending upon what you want to have happen with them. But yeah, you get to make them. Basically, you just flay their friends alive so that they are super scared of you, which is super Night Lordy and super effective there. I like that a lot. All right, so then you got their artifacts they've got going on here. So we've got Flayer, when the Legion's frightful tendencies. Model power sword only. Relic replaces the power sword with the following profile. Strength +1, AP -3, 2 damage. Each model destroyed by an attack with this weapon counts as 2 for the purposes of morale tests. Ooh, that's cool. That's super fun, especially if you're going against like orcs or something like that, and you've got someone with a bunch of attacks. You can slay a bunch of them there with those 2 damage, and suddenly their morale test becomes that much harder. Or with the 2 damage each with AP -3, if you're going against Primaris, suddenly they're going to be doubling the number of sure, they've got, and they shall know no fear, but you lose a couple there and suddenly it really starts to add up. Then you've got Stormbolt Plate, infantry model only. A model with this relic has a save characteristic of 2+. In addition, a model with this relic always counts as being in cover, even while it is not entirely on or within a terrain feature. Not bad. So it's got a 2+ armor save, but then you're also counted as cover. So unless they're ignoring cover, you're basically at a 1+ armor save. So, ones always fail, but at the same time, they're going to be AP -1. You're still 2+ armor save. So pretty good, no matter what, no matter where you are. I like that one a lot. Then you've got Vox Demonicus, infantry model only. Whilst an enemy unit is within 6 inches of a model with this relic, reduce the range of that unit's aura abilities to 1 inch. In addition, enemy units that are set up on the battlefield as reinforcements cannot be set up within 12 inches of a model with this relic. That's cool. I think that's cool. I think it's always fun to shut down opponents' aura abilities. I also think it's fun to be able to keep people who are deep striking from getting near you. Really hurts the Gene Stealer cult and a bunch of other things like the jump for the orcs. Any of those things really keeps them further away, keeps you safer from those like hidden assaults that are going to be coming in there turn 2 or so. I like that one a lot. Talons of the Night Terror. A model with that can fly only. This relic has the following profile: strength +1, AP -1, 1 damage. Abilities: when a model with this relic fights, it makes D3 additional attacks with the weapon, or D6 additional attacks with this weapon if it made a charged move or performed a heroic intervention this turn. That's super cool. So you've got strength +1, AP -1, 1 damage. But if you have a model that can fly, so basically you're gonna have like a jump pack dude bro coming in here. You've got AP -1, D3 additional attacks, or D6 additional attacks. You're going to have +1 attack if you charged anyway. So there's going to be D6 +1 additional attacks. So if you got 4 base attacks, you have a possibility of 11 attacks from one dude, bro. Ooh, spicy. I like that one. I like that one a lot. I think that can really hit people unaware. Pretty awesome there. I like that Talons of the Night Terror. Then you got Scourging Chains. Improve the armor penetration characteristic of melee weapons a model with this relic is equipped with by 1. Subtract 1 from the attacks characteristic of enemy models whilst they are within 1 inch of a model with this relic. That's pretty cool. -1 attack into you really makes a big difference against Primaris, who always have that base of 2 that they've got going on there. Makes it now to a 1. It's a minimum of 1, so it's not really going to affect things like Guardsmen or regular Marines. But Primaris Marines or other characters and stuff like that, -1 attack into you is super effective, and +1 to your AP is also super effective. I like that one. And then you got Misery of the Meek. Once per battle at the start of your movement phase, a model with this relic can drink from the Misery of Meek. That model immediately regains up to D6 lost wounds, and until the start of your next turn, add D3 to the model's attacks characteristic. Once per battle, again, I'm not a big fan of once per battle relics just because you use them and they're gone, but that's a pretty good one. Of the ones that we've seen that are once per battle, I kind of like that one a lot, because getting back D6 lost wounds is always super helpful when you got characters that are just had an unlucky set of events. Getting back D6 wounds is good, and then D3 additional attacks to really hit back, which is always fun. Then you've got your objectives, and you've got your name generator. I will be Kur, the Ceaseless Torment of the Ceaseless Torment. I like that one. Alpha Legion. We are all Alfarius. So you've got your normal stuff. So basically the way these all work is that you get everything that they would have gotten that they do get currently from the Chaos Space Marines Codex. So this is not replacing that. This is all just in addition to it. So let's go over their Warlord traits here. I am Alfarius, apropos. In addition to this Warlord trait, this Warlord has 1 randomly generated Chaos Space Marine Warlord trait from Codex Space Marines. Codex Chaos Space Marines. If this Warlord is destroyed, you can immediately select another Alpha Legion character model from your army to take their place and generate a Warlord trait for them, including this one. If the mission you are playing grants victory points for destroying the enemy Warlord, your opponent will only achieve that objective if all of the Alpha Legion character models from your army have been destroyed. So it's like that, but you get they've had this ability before, but you get an additional Warlord trait from the Chaos Space Marines Codex in addition to it. So it's pretty good. I like that one. It's always a pain in the ass to fight off against Alpha Legion when they've got that ability there. Then you've got Clandestine. When resolving an attack made against this Warlord, subtract 1 from the hit rolls. -1 to hit is always good, and that says attacks made, so it's shooting and punching. Then you've got Headhunter, and especially this would also stack up because Alpha Legion outside of 12 inches, you're -2 to hit their character. So if you've got those eliminators that are really trying to snipe you out there, -2 to hit because you're outside of 12 inches and -1 to hit from that. So that's pretty good. Headhunter, this warlord can target character units even if they are not the closest enemy unit. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon with this warlord, an unmodified hit roll of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any other damage. Pretty good. Very situational. I prefer to let the sniping being handled by like professional snipers. I think that there's other ways that you can get your warlords to do better. I guess maybe if you want your first warlord to be like someone with just like an ability to shoot well, and then when he dies, go on to someone else and just try to pick off a couple people early on. Doing mortal wounds is not a bad thing to have there. Then you got Master of Diversion. At the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, select up to 3 other friendly Alpha Legion units on the battlefield. Remove these units from the battlefield and set them up again, following the usual deployment rules for those units and the mission. If you redeploy a transport model, all units embarked inside it remain so when it is set up again. So that's pretty good. Getting to select up to 3 other friendly Alpha Legion units on the battlefield. Move units from the battlefield, set them up again, following the usual deployment rules. So yeah, you get to redeploy. You can get draw and feint and try to pull out where you want your opponent to place some certain things. So super situational again, but I think a lot of warlord traits usually end up being pretty situational. Then you've got Cult Leader. When resolving an attack made with a weapon by a model in a friendly Alpha Legion Chaos Cultist unit within 6 inches of this warlord, on an unmodified wound roll of 6, the armor penetration characteristic of the weapon is improved by 1 for the attack. So if you got a whole horde of cultists that are going to be joining in with this guy, -1 to their autogun attacks is not bad, and it's just an attack. So even their close combat attacks are going to be an additional -1 if they got one of those 6s. So it only works if you've got just like a horde of guys going, because you need all of those rolls to really start getting some 6s. But it could really add up pretty quickly with that, which is pretty fun, and really makes really helps out the Chaos Cultist there a lot, which is pretty good. Then you got Faceless Commander. Once per battle, at the end of your movement phase, you can remove this warlord from the battlefield and set them up again within 3 inches of a friendly Alpha Legion infantry unit and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So that's pretty good. Once per battle, just like pick them up and plop them down somewhere else in the battlefield. Especially if you've got a warlord who's really good at punching things, you can use other units to just like go up the board and suffer all the shooting while this guy hides in a building, and then all of a sudden you're like, JK, he was totally with them the whole time, and now he's basically like deep striking him in at any point during the battle, which is always fun. Let's go over some of their stratagems here. We've got Forward Operatives. 1 CP, use the stratagem during deployment. When you set up an Alpha Legion infantry unit from your army at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, you can move that unit up to 9 inches. It cannot end this move within 9 inches of any enemy models. If both players have units that can move before the first turn begins, the player who's taking the first turn moves their units first. Each unit can only be selected for the stratagem once per battle. So during deployment, you spend the Forward Operatives, and then before things start, once you know what's happening, you can move them up to 9 inches away, which is pretty good because you can deploy them very aggressively, and then if you win the roll, you can use that 9 inches to get even more aggressive, and if you fail the roll, you can use that 9 inches to go and hide them from the enemy onslaught that's going to be coming at you there. So it can both protect you from alpha strikes and also set you up to make some alpha strikes. So I like how that works out. I know it's not new or anything, nothing really groundbreaking there, but I like that, how it works out. Conceal. Use the 2 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select 1 Alpha Legion infantry unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, enemy models can only target that unit if it is the closest visible target. So yeah, Alpha Legion infantry unit, so it can really help you keep them protected, which is kind of cool if you've got like a Warp Talons or something like that are looking to get off a charge soon, and you've got a bunch of cultists that are nearby. You can just protect the Warp Talons, and then just have those cultists take the flak of all the shooting that they have to shoot through before they can get to your Warp Talons, which is pretty cool. 1 CP for Sabotaged Armory. Use the stratagem in any phase before your opponent rolls to see if a vehicle model from their army explodes. If any Alpha Legion units from your army are on the battlefield, add 3 to 1 of the D6 rolled, and the roll cannot be re-rolled. So that's super cool. You get to basically on a 3+, your opponent's model is going to explode. That could be really helpful if, say your opponent, say you manage to kill a castellan that's back in your opponent's area back there. You get to spend that 1 CP before they roll for it. And then they roll the 2d6 to see if it explodes. If any of those rolls is a 3+, you go, boop, that's the one that I'm going to add it to. Or if they roll a 6 and a 3, you get to add the 3 to that other one, and they get double 6s, and now you've got 3d6 inches that they're exploding. It could be super effective. I like that one a lot, actually. I think that'd be fun to use there. Then you've got scrambled coordinates for 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your opponent's movement phase when an enemy unit is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements, but before it is placed on the battlefield, that unit must be set up more than 12 inches away from Alpha Legion units from your army rather than 9 inches. So that's cool. I like that one a lot. It can really help. It can be really super effective against Gene Stealer Cult. Like if they're dropping down like a big old squad of aberrants or a big old squad of acolytes in there, so now suddenly they're going to be an additional 3 inches away. And sure, like the getting them the D6 move closer is going to be is still enough. They can still do it after because you place them more than 12 inches away and then you move them D6 inches. But at the same time, even on the max roll of a 6 at that point, they still have a 6-inch charge, which can be failed. And it's going to put them I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's super helpful to help keep you protect against some of those deep striking armies. And then you've got Renaissant Infiltration. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select 1 Alpha Legion infantry unit from your army that is more than 3 inches away from any enemy models. You cannot select a unit that arrived from reinforcements this turn. Remove that unit from the battlefield. At the end of your next movement phase, set up that unit on the battlefield again anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy from any enemy models. Any models that cannot be set up in this way are destroyed. If the battle ends before the unit is set back up, it is destroyed. That, to me, makes Terminators more useful. Because the number of times that I've deep struck my Terminators, got in that first charge, or failed that first charge even, and then they spent the rest of the game just like foot slogging it across the battlefield, it made it hard to really make it worth bringing them back again later on. If you use this stratagem now, suddenly they drop in. If they fail that charge that first turn, the next turn you pop them up and then you can move them, because foot slogging Terminators always disappoint. They always disappoint. So now you got the ability to make up for that, get them back into the fight on a turn later, which is great. So you can't use them the turn they drop in. So if they do, fail that charge, you still have to wait for the next turn. But at the same time, I think it's worth it. I definitely think it's worth it to be able to use it for that. So I like that for Terminators especially, just because of the ability that just because of how slow they are to be moving around. You got Ambush here for 2 CP. Use this stratagem in your opponent's movement phase after an enemy unit is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements. Select 1 Alpha Legion unit from your army within 18 inches of that unit to shoot at that unit as if it were your shooting phase. So, Ambush, opponent's movement phase after an enemy is set up battlefield as reinforced. Select 1 Alpha unit, the army within 18 inches of that unit to shoot at that unit. So it's basically like... what is it? Auspex scan, except you don't have -1 to hit, and it's 18 inches instead of 12 inches for 2 CP. Not bad. I like that a lot. I think that's super, super, super cool. And then you've got 1 CP for Feigned Retreat. Use this stratagem in your movement phase. When you fall back with an Alpha Legion unit from your army, that unit can still shoot this turn. Fall back and shoot is always nice. I like that in my Dark Angels. And then you have We Are Alfarius. Use this stratagem before the battle after you're nominating your Warlord. Select 1 Alpha Legion character model from your army that is not your Warlord and determine 1 Warlord trait for it. It is regarded as your Warlord for the purposes of that Warlord trait. Each Warlord trait in your army must be unique. If randomly generated, reroll duplicate results. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. Basically, having 2 Warlord traits that you get to use is, that's super, super helpful. I really like that a lot. Then we've got the artifacts of the Alpha Legion. So we've got Drake Scale Plate, infantry model only. Model with this relic has a save characteristic of 2+. When a model with this relic would lose a wound as the result of a mortal wound, roll a d6 and a 5+. So 5+ feel no pain against mortal wounds and a 2+ armor save. I like that a lot. I always really like that kind of benefit there. You have Mind Veil. Use the start of your movement phase. If a model with this relic is on the battlefield, roll 3d6. Until the end of that phase, that model's move characteristic is equal to the result. If the in the movement phase, a model with this relic can move across other models in terrain as if they were not there. In the charge phase, a model with this relic can move across other models other than buildings as if they were not there. A model with this relic can charge in a turn in which they fell back. They fall back. I like that a lot. Just like shooting across the board, doing all sorts of fun stuff, running through people. No worry about screens. Super nice. I like that one. So Hydra's Wail. Once per battle at the start of the battle round, if a model with this relic is on the battlefield, it can activate the Hydra's Wail until the end of the battle round. When your opponent spends command points to use a stratagem, roll 1d6. On a 4+, your opponent must spend 1 extra command point to use that stratagem. I mean, or else it has no effect on the command points spent or lost so far. Super situational. Again, I'm not a big fan of once per game, once per battle kind of relics, just because they just pop and they're done, and they can either be really effective or not effective at all, and just like, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of that. But I think that having this ability here might be helpful. It's what the Adeptus Assassin has. First turn against maybe Knights, who you know are going to spend a lot of CP, or second turn against Blood Angels, who you know they're going to use a lot of CP to upon Wings of Fire and all those different things that they're going. Maybe you do it, but even then, super situational. It's 4+ for it to even make a difference. I'm not so sure about that one. You've got Viper's Bite. Model with Combi Bolter only. The relic replaces the Combi Bolter. Makes it Rapid Fire 2, 24 inches Rapid Fire 2, Strength 5, AP -3, 2 damage. Oof, that's nice. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Then you've got Hydra's Teeth, model with this bolt weapon. Model with a bolt weapon only. The bolt weapons of a model with this relic are granted the following abilities. Attacks made with this weapon automatically hit the target. The weapon wounds on a 2+ unless it is targeting a vehicle or Titanic unit, in which case it wounds on a 6+. Units do not receive the benefit of cover to their saving throws against attacks made with this weapon. Whew, that's pretty nice. Hydra's Teeth, heck yeah, I like that one. Wounding, it's like poison 2+, which is pretty nice. And they auto hit, so it's basically like a flame. You know, put that on a Combi Bolter, and suddenly you've got, you know, within 24 inches, if they didn't move, they've got, you know, 4 2+ to wound. 4 auto hits. They're doing 2+ to wound. I like it. I like the Hydra's Teeth. I think I would take probably the Hydra's Teeth over the Viper's Bite, just because of that ability. I like it a lot. Doesn't get cover save. A lot of different things. That could be super effective. I like that. Hydra's Teeth is probably my go-to there. Oh, I like both of those. Both of those are really good. And then you've got Shade Blade, a model with Power Sword of Force Sword only. Becomes Strength +1, AP -3, D3 damage. When resolving an attack against the bearer, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So -1 to hit them, they get +1, AP -3, D3 damage. Resolving an attack made against the bearer. So it's shooting and close combat, which is great. So you're -1 to hit at all times. And as Alpha Legion, you're also -1 to hit from more than 12 inches away. So if you pop that onto a Warlord with Clandestine, so you have a Warlord with Clandestine and the Shade Blade, and suddenly they are -3 to hit outside of 12 inches. Oof. Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. You know, so suddenly now those eliminators that are trying to pop you are hitting on 6s if they want to get anything onto you over there. Oh man, that's super nice. I like that one a lot. That one's a good one. I would probably take that one very, very often if I'm running Alpha Legion. And then you've got the Alpha Legion tactical objectives that they got this separate them out there, and then they've got their name generators. I'm surprised that it's not just all Alfarius. Make myself laugh. Somebody's got to laugh at my jokes, right? So I am going to be Alfarius Renko. Sounds good to me. Iron Warriors going into here. So here we go. So again, this is all in addition to it. So let's go into their Warlord traits. We have Cold and Bitter. When a morale test is taken for a friendly Iron Warriors unit within 6 inches of this Warlord, do not roll the dice. It is automatically passed. So auto-passing morale, that's always helpful, especially for Chaos Space Marines, since they don't have and they shall know no fear. So having that ability is always super helpful. Demon Smith, you've got when resolving an attack made by a weapon in a friendly Iron Warriors Demon Engine or Iron Warriors Cult of Destruction unit within 6 inches of this Warlord, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. So exploding 6s, which is really nice. And then you've got Iron Without. When this Warlord would lose a wound, roll 1d6 on a 5+, that wound is not lost. So 5+ feel no pain, always super helpful. Can't really fault that one. That's a good one to take there. Then you've got Bastion. When resolving an attack made with a weapon that has an armor penetration characteristic of -1 against a friendly Iron Warriors unit that is within 6 inches of this Warlord and receiving the benefit of cover, the weapon is treated as having an armor penetration characteristic of 0. So basically, units within 6 inches of the Warlord basically count AP -1 as AP 0, which is super effective against, Marine Bolters, all that kind of stuff. Anything that's going to get you AP -1, they're going to get +1 for cover, and they're going to have, AP, no AP there. So that's pretty good. So it doesn't just ignore, the cover doesn't just ignore the AP, they get +1, which is great. Then you got Siege Master. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in a friendly Iron Warriors Havocs or Iron Warriors vehicle unit within 6 inches of Warlord, reroll a wound roll of 1. So you get to reroll wound rolls of 1 when resolving an attack made with ranged weapons for Havocs and vehicles. I like that one a lot. I think that's really cool, setting up your gun line of dude bros there with the Havocs, with all their weapons that they've got going for them, and then the vehicles as well. I like that one a lot. I think that's going to be super helpful. Then you got Stoic Advance. Friendly Iron Warriors units do not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons whilst they're within 6 inches of your Warlord. Again, super great if you want to be aggressive, running out the battlefield with a whole bunch of heavy weapons. I like that one a lot. Then you've got Iron Warriors Stratagems. So you've got 1 CP, Iron Within, Iron Without. Use the stratagem in any phase when a model in an Iron Warriors unit from your army would lose a wound. Roll 1d6 for that wound, and for each other wound that would be lost by a model in that unit until the end of that phase. On a 6, the wound is not lost. So 6+ feel no pain for a phase, which is not bad for 1 CP. Especially if you know that you have a unit that's just going to get pounded with a whole bunch of wounds. That's a pretty good one to spend 1 CP on. Then you've got 1 CP for Methodical Annihilation. With Methodical Iron Warriors unit, use the stratagem in your shooting phase when an Iron Warriors unit from your army is chosen to shoot with. Select one of the following effects to last until the end of the phase. When resolving an attack made with a model by a model in that unit, you can reroll the damage roll, or you can reroll any or all of the dice to determine the type characteristic of weapons that models in that unit are equipped with. So essentially, you can either reroll the damage rolls for a unit there, or if you're something like a, what are they called? The guys who just roll their strength and AP and damage for their weapons. The Obliterators. If you've got Obliterators there, you can reroll all the effects on them, which is super helpful for those situations that you've got those guys that you really need them to do a lot of damage, because you've got them buffed up with like prescience and whatever else you've got going on them. You can use that to, because it's always super painful when you see that when you roll, the +1 to the 1 to the damage and then whatever else. Yeah, I like that one. Then you got Dour Duty. Use the stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase or your charge phase when an Iron Warriors unit from your army is chosen as a target for an attack. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against that unit, worsen the armor penetration characteristic of that weapon by 1 for that attack, e.g. AP -1 becomes AP 0. That's not bad, especially if you're running into like a whole bunch of, if they've got what is it, the second tactical doctrine up, and you're running into a whole bunch of aggressors, and you're going to be shooting at you, and they've got AP -1 because that's what their weapons have become. I would definitely use that one for sure. And then you have Unholy Vigor for 1 CP. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select one Iron Warriors vehicle model from your army. That model regains up to 3 lost wounds. Not bad. +3 wounds onto a model for 1 CP. I like that one. Tank Hunters. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase or the fight phase when you choose an Iron Warriors unit from your army, excluding Chaos Cultists, to shoot or fight with. Select one enemy vehicle unit until the end of that phase when resolving an attack made by a model on that in that Iron Warriors unit against the selected unit. You can reroll the wound rolls. So that's pretty cool. Rerolling wound rolls against like a knight that you need to take down with like a Havoc squad with las cannons or something like that would be super helpful. Then you've got Rampant Technovirus. 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase or the fight phase. When you select an Iron Warriors Obliterators or Iron Warriors Mutilators unit from your army to shoot or fight with. Until the end of that phase, you can reroll any or all D3 rolls made for the unit's flesh metal guns or flesh metal weapons ability. So, I guess dice to determine the type characteristics of weapons. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was misreading this one, but that's essentially for 1 CP doing the same thing. I guess maybe you can use 2 different units. You can use the 2 of those. I don't know. You reroll any or all of the dice to determine the type characteristic of weapons that models in that unit are equipped with. Type to determine the type characteristic. I don't know. I'm not sure about this one now. Now I'm confused. I thought that's what it was for, but then they've got this one, which apparently allows them to reroll those ones. I'm not sure what this would be. Maybe if you can clear up what methodical annihilation should be in that second part there, that I'm not reading it right. Maybe I'm just not knowing stuff. I don't know as much about the Traitor Marines as I probably should, to be honest. Then we go 2 CP for Cannon Fodder. Use this stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select 1 Iron Warriors infantry unit from your army. Then select 1 friendly Iron Warriors Chaos Cultist unit, wholly within 6 inches of that unit. Until the end of that phase, enemy models cannot target that Iron Warriors infantry unit if the selected Iron Warriors Chaos Cultist unit is a closer visible target. So 2 CP to protect them again. I like that one. I mean, anytime you see that, it can be really effective. I think the Salamanders have a similar thing that I've got going on, which is good. Basically, just throwing a big old blob of cultists up there to get shot at first, which is pretty nice. And then you've got 1 CP for Bitter Enmity. Use the stratagem at the fight phase when an Iron Warriors unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of the phase, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit against an Imperial Fist unit, you can reroll hit rolls and you can reroll wound rolls. So essentially, it's like the other one that they had was with the Word Bearers against the Ultramarines. Now you get this one against the against Imperial Fist, which is always fun to be able to do that. Again, everybody's got those ones. I've got them as Dark Angels against the Fallen, all those different ones that you usually get. There's usually one of those in every army that they've got that kind of history with. And then you've got artifacts of the Iron Warriors here. So you've got the Siegebreaker Mace, modeled with the Power Maul or Cursed Cosius only. It replaces it. You select one of the profiles. Siegebreaker Mace, choose one of the profiles. So you can either swing or smash. So a swing is strength plus 2, AP minus 2, 2 damage. A smash is strength times 2, AP minus 3, D6 damage. When the bearer fights using the smash profile, it can only make 2 attacks. When resolving an attack made with the smash profile, roll 2d6 when inflicting damage with it, and discard one of the results. So you get 2d6, drop the lowest. So it's basically like Melta with the smash there, but you're only making 2 attacks. But I mean, whew, that could really do a number, especially if you're... So basically, if you're going against infantry, you probably want to go with number 1 with the swing. But if you're going against a vehicle or something like that, strength times 2, AP minus 3, d6 damage. It's not even minus 1 to hit. You just make the 2 attacks instead of all of the attacks that you could possibly make. I like that. I like that a lot. It also just adds up on the Crozius. The Accursed Crozius just makes it extra powerful even if you're just using the regular stuff. So it's beneficial even if you're only attacking against infantry, but if you happen to be going against a vehicle, I really think that smash could really come in handy. Or if you're going against like a character, throw it down there, and if you hit with those, not AP minus 1, so you're probably going to wounding those characters on 2s, AP minus 3, you could do a number there, 2d6 each, minus 2d6, drop the lowest on each of them. Hell yeah, I like that a lot. Cranium Malevolus. Cranium Malevolus. In your shooting phase, a model with this relic can use the Cranium Malevolus instead of shooting. Roll 1d6 for each enemy vehicle unit within 9 inches of that model. On a 4 through 5, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, that unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. That's pretty fun. You run them up there, jump them next to like an Iron Hands group of a big old Iron Hands squad of repulsors over there, and suddenly you're doing a whole bunch of mortal wounds in the shooting phase. That's not bad, especially if you're setting up to make a charge there. It's used within 9 inches, so you can't deep strike into it. But if you're jumping up there, running up there, and you're being aggressive with your Iron Warriors to make some charges up there, I think that could be super helpful and super beneficial. Again, situational. If you're running into a whole bunch of infantry, it's not going to do you anything, but you wouldn't take that if you're going against that. Then you got Insidium. Model of this relic gains the Demon keyword. If it does not already have it, add 1 to the strength, toughness, and wounds characteristic of that model. Not bad. You super power your dude, bro. Then you got Axe of the Forge Master. Model with this power axe or demonic axe only. Replaces it. Becomes strength +3, AP -3, 2 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon against a vehicle unit, an unmodified hit roll of 5+ inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target in addition to any normal damage. On a 5+. So, wow, that's really, really cool. Unmodified hit roll of a 5+. So basically a 5 or a 6 on the roll, you're doing D3 mortal wounds in addition to anything else. And strength +3, you're looking at strength 7. So against vehicles, most of the vehicles you're wounding them on 4s at that point, if not 3s. If it's slightly less, if you're going against speeders or whatever else. So if you've got a jump pack on your dude, bro, and you go against a flyer, I like that one a lot. I think that would be the power X. I think that would be super powerful. I think that'd be really great. Then you've got Spite Spitter, model with Combi Bolter only. Replaces it. Rapid Fire 2, Strength 5, AP -3, D3 damage. Yeah, I mean, anytime that you turn those Storm Bolters or Combi Bolters into something extra like that, really amps up their abilities, which is really cool. And then you got the Techno Venomous Mechatendrils. Warpsmith model only. Replace the Mechatendrils with the following profile. Strength user, AP 0, 1 damage. When this bearer fights, it makes 4 additional attacks with this weapon, and only those 4 attacks can be made with this weapon. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, if a hit is scored, the target suffers 1 mortal wound and the attack sequence ends. So basically, you're just trying to hit it. You're doing mortal wounds with 4 attacks. That's not bad. So 4, especially on a Warpsmith, you can get them up there, making those attacks in there, and getting mortal wounds in there on hit rolls. Don't even have to wound them at all. You're just doing some mortal wounds going through there. So I like that one too. If you're running a Warpsmith, that's not a bad one to take there. Then you've got your tactical objectives, and you've got your name generator. I will be Orn. Let's see what Orn of Praxis. Sounds good to me. Emperor's Children. So let's go into their Warlord traits. You've got Stimulated by Pain. Add 1 to your Warlord's attacks characteristics for each wound he has suffered to a maximum of +3. If your Warlord regains any lost wounds, he loses the associated bonus attacks. All right, that's not bad. I like that. Basically lets you Hulk out as you get more hurt. You're doing more damage. You've got Intoxicating Musk. When resolving an attack made by an enemy unit within 3 inches of this Warlord, subtract 1 from the hit roll. When you choose this Warlord to fight with, you and your opponent secretly choose a number from 1 to 3 on a D6. When you choose this Warlord to fight with, you and your opponent secretly choose a number from 1 to 3 on a D6. We suggest turning a D6 to show the number, but concealing this behind your hand. Then reveal the choice simultaneously. If the chosen numbers differ, the Warlord can make a number of additional attacks that fight sequence equal to the number you chose. So that's kind of cool. So essentially, you've got you can have up to 3 attacks here, and then you both secretly hide it, and then you reveal it. If they're different, you get that many more that you put there. So if your opponent is afraid of you getting 3, they're going to put 3. If you put 2, you get 2 additional attacks. Or if your opponent thinks that you think that, they might put a 2, but if you put a 3, you can get it. So it really depends upon who your opponent you're facing. You have to get into mind games with them there, which is kind of interesting. Very Emperor's Children-y, I think. I like that. I think that's pretty cool there. Then you've got Faultless Duelist. At the start of the fight phase, roll 1d3 until the end of that phase. Subtract the result from the attacks characteristic of enemy models to a minimum of 1 whilst they are within 1 inch of this Warlord. Wow. That's pretty cool. So if you roll a 3 there, suddenly you're attacking into like a bunch of characters. They're -3 to the number of attacks they have to a minimum of 1. So everyone still gets their 1 attack. So it's not going to help you against like chaff or hordes. But D3 from the end of the phase, subtract the result from enemy models within 1 inch. So if you charge into a character, you roll the D3, another 3, at least 1, possibly 3 attacks less going into you, which is pretty good. And it's the start of the fight phase, so even if they charge into you, same thing. Then you got Glutton for Punishment. When resolving an attack against this Warlord, reduce any damage inflicted by 1 to a minimum of 1. Pretty good. That's super helpful when I've got my Aberrants in Genestealer Cult, so I can imagine it'd be super effective with a Emperor's Children Warlord. And then Loathsome Grace. When a charge roll is made for this Warlord, you can re-roll the dice. If this Warlord makes a charge move or performs a heroic intervention, add 1 to their strength and attacks characteristics until the end of the subsequent fight phase. So pretty good. I like that one a lot. Strength and attacks characteristic is always nice to buff up. And re-rolling charges is always super nice too. So make sure you get into combat with them. That's nice. I like that. I like those. I've actually been very impressed so far with the Warlord traits that they've got for the Chaos Space Marines. Even their stratagems, a little less so than the Warlord traits, and then the artifacts I've mostly been super impressed with so far. I mean, we still got some more to go, but we'll see how far we go. Then we got the Emperor's Children stratagems. 2 CP for combat elixirs. Use the stratagem before the battle. Select 1 Emperor's Children unit from your army that is not a vehicle or Chaos Cultist. Then select one of the following effects to apply to models in that unit until the end of the battle. +1 to attacks characteristic, +1 to strength characteristic, +2 inches to move characteristic, +1 to toughness characteristic. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. So that's not bad. 2 CP, buff up one of your units with something specific that you're going against there. So if you need +1 attack, if you need +1 strength, +2 the move, if you're looking to just use a unit to really shoot out and jump onto objectives, or +1 to the toughness so you keep them from dying as easily. I like that. I like that for 2 CP, not bad. Then you got Excess of Violence. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when you choose an Emperor's Children infantry unit from your army to fight with. Until the end of that phase, if an attack made by a model in that unit destroys an enemy model, the attacking model can make 1 additional attack against the same unit using the same weapon. So that's not bad. From this army to fight with until the end of the phase. Attack made with this model in that unit destroys an enemy model. So if you keep destroying models with your attacks, you're probably going to have to do them one at a time if you're spending that 1 CP, because that's the way dice are meant to be done. But it's still super helpful to be able to do that. The attacking model can make 1 additional attack against the same unit using the same weapon. It also, at the end of that phase, if an attack made by a model in that unit destroys an enemy model, the attacking model can make 1 additional attack against the same unit using the same weapon. So, yeah, I mean, you have to use it to make sure you go through it one at a time to make sure you've got them. But yeah, I think that's super effective. I like that one a lot. For 1 CP, not bad. 1 CP for Incessant Disdain. Use the stratagem at the end of your opponent's charge phase. Select an Emperor's Children character model from your army. That model can perform a heroic intervention if it is within 6 inches of an enemy model, of any enemy models, and can move up to 6 inches when doing so, as long as it finishes that move within 1 inch of an enemy character model or the nearest enemy model. So, not bad. You have to get into combat, but, still, for 1 CP, that's super helpful, especially when people measure out so that they're exactly 3.1 inches away from you. When they charge in, you can just spend that and boop, now you're into combat with your beefed up dude bro. Then you've got Honor the Prince. Use this stratagem in your charge phase after making a charge roll for any Emperor's Children Slanesh unit from your army. You can change the result of one of the d6 rolled to a 6. Ooh, that's nice. So you don't even have to re-roll. You just change it for 1 CP. Instead of re-rolling one of those dice, you just turn it into a 6. So if you need that 9-inch charge, you roll a 1 and a 3. You spend 1 CP, that 1 becomes a 6, and you made that charge. I like that a lot. For 1 CP, because usually you would spend 1 CP to re-roll that 1 die and hope that you got a 6. But instead, now you can spend that 1 CP and guarantee that you get that 6. That's super cool. I like that one a lot. Then you got 1 CP for Excruciating Frequencies. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when an Emperor's Children Noise Marines unit from your army is chosen to shoot with. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to the strength and damage characteristic of Blastmasters, Sonic Blasters, and Doom Sirens models in that unit are equipped with. So not bad. +1 strength and damage to those. They're already pretty tough to handle. So now you get to do that. +1 strength and damage. They're going to be doing a lot of damage. That's pretty cool. I like that one a lot. Then you've got Cruel Duelists. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when an Emperor's Children unit from your army that is not a vehicle or Chaos Cultist is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit, On an unmodified wound roll of a 6, that weapon has an armor penetration characteristic of -3 for that attack. So -3, which is pretty good. I like that one. I think that's pretty cool. It could be super situational, but super effective. I like that a lot. Then you got 1 CP for Tactical Perfection. Use this stratagem at the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins. Select 1 Emperor's Children unit from your army. Remove that unit from the battlefield and set up again following the usual deployment rules for that unit and the mission being played. If you redeployed a transport model, units embarked aboard it remain so when it is set up again. So sort of like the Alpha Legion one, except a little less effective, just 1 for 1. So, but it's at the start of the first battle round. So I think they said at the beginning and at the end of are not considered battle rounds, so you could use that multiple times, I think, to use that. So be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't know. It's pretty good, but I mean, I've seen better in this book. But then again, that's not for Emperor's Children. So artifacts of the Emperor's Children. We got the Endless Grin. When a morale test is taken for an enemy unit within 6 inches of a model with this relic, your opponent must roll 1 additional d6, and you can choose one of those dice to be discarded. Subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of models in enemy units whilst their unit is within 6 inches of a model with this relic. Playing with morale is always fun, but again, super situational. There's so many ways to get around it that it becomes hard to really spend your relic on that. Fatal Sundency. The relic is a weapon that has the following profile: range 12, assault d6, 6. Strength 6, AP -2, 1 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, do not make a hit roll. It automatically scores a hit. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, the target does not receive the benefit of cover to its saving throws. So it's a Strength 6 Flamer, AP -2, 1 damage. Not bad, especially if you're going to get charged. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Then you've got range 12, so if they're charging you, they can get hit with it. So it's not like they can even go like the 8.1 inches away and ignore your flamers. That's pretty good. I like that one. Then you've got Armor of Abhorrence. Enemy units cannot fire Overwatch at a model with this relic. If an enemy unit fails a morale test while it is within 6 inches of a model with this relic, 1 additional model flees from that unit. Pretty good. Not getting Overwatched is always super helpful. Ask any Smash Captain which jump pack he's going to choose. I guarantee you that's the one that keeps him from being Overwatched. And then he's also going to take this... that's pretty nice that you also make more people run away from you, which is always helpful. And then you've got Remnant of the Maraviglia. Remnant of the Maraviglia. Priest model only. Once per battle, instead of chanting a prayer, a model with this relic can broadcast the Remnant of the Maraviglia until the end of that battle round. When resolving an attack made by a model in a friendly Emperor's Children unit within 6 inches of a model with this relic, you can re-roll the wound roll. So that's not bad. So essentially it's just once per battle again. I'm not a big fan of once per battle stuff, but if you have a game plan where you really need that one re-rolling wound rolls on that one turn, you've got everybody just charging in, I think that could be really super effective. Or you've got that first round of a whole lot of shooting that you're going to use, it can be effective. But it would have to be game plan determined if that's even worth it taking for you. So perhaps it is, perhaps it's not, but I mean, it's worth checking out if that's what you're going to look for. I wouldn't rule it out, but again, I'm not a big fan of once per game stuff for relics. You've got Distortion here, model with a power sword or force sword only, makes it strength user, AP -4, D3 damage. At the start of the fight phase, the bearer can look upon their reflection. Until the end of that phase, this weapon has a strength characteristic of ×2, and resolving an attack made with this weapon, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So you get distracted, but you get strength ×2. So basically turn this, if you have strength ×2, AP -4, D3 damage. So it basically turns into a chain fist, right? It turns into a chain fist, -1 to hit, but strength ×2, AP -4. But if you don't want to look into it, if you're going against like regular cultists, you can just use your regular strength and you got no problem using it there. So I like that one. I like that one a lot too. Then you got Raiment Revulsive. When resolving an attack made by a model with this relic, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. When a charge roll is made for a model with this relic, you can reroll the result. So you can reroll charges, you can reroll hits, and you can reroll wounds. That's pretty good, especially if you're trying to make like your own version of a chaotic like Smash Captain that you're just going to run and smash into your opponents. Rerolling charges, rerolling hits, rerolling wounds. I like that one. I like that one a lot. I I think that's super effective. I think that's going to be good stuff. Then you've got their tactical objectives, and you've got their name generators. I'm going to be Telos Capersi. There we go. Oh, no. I'm going to be Telos the Inevitable. Ha-ha! I like that one. So that's a good one. Then you've got the World Eaters here. So their Warlord traits going right into it here. We've got Slaughterborn. When an enemy character, monster, or titanic model is destroyed as a result of an attack made by this Warlord, add 1 to this Warlord's attacks and strength characteristic. So if he just starts going ham, he can really, really start going ham. I like that one. That's pretty good. But against character, monster, or titanic, it's very specific, and you have to really be super aggressive. And, I mean, I don't know. You can probably do it. I'm just saying, that's going to be tough to get off. But if it does go off, you really start to buff out there, which is cool. Then you've got Arc Slaughterer. At the start of the fight phase, add D3 to this Warlord's attack characteristics. If there are more enemy models within 3 inches of them than there are friendly models. These extra attacks last until the end of their fight phase. So that's pretty cool. I like that one a lot. D3 additional if you're running in there and just kind of slaughter people. I like that a lot. And you can easily work this around so they're with more enemy models. You charge them onto one side of a unit, and then you have like your supporters coming up the other side of the unit. So they can still be within 6 inches getting the buffs from them, but not be within 3 inches, so he'll still get his D3 additional attacks, which I think could be pretty cool. Then you got Disciple of Khorne. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by this Warlord against an enemy character unit or a unit that contains any models with a wounds characteristic of 5 or more, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. So essentially characters and vehicles and all sorts of different stuff that get buffed up to 5 or more wounds, which is pretty good there. And then you get to reroll hit rolls and wound rolls. I like that one. I'm liking these ones so far. That's pretty good. And then you got Violent Urgency. When an advance or charge roll is made for a friendly World Eaters unit within 6 inches of this Warlord, add 1 to the result. So +1 to charges, always helpful. I do that all the time. I usually spend CP in my Gene Stealer cult units to take the Warlord trait onto the Abominant so that my Aberrants just get +1 to their charge. Which, you know, if I'm spending, 1 CP, 2 CP at that point to make that happen, and you can just take it as a Warlord trait, that's super nice. I like that one. Because you don't have to gate the specialty detachment, blah, 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 blah. And then you've got True Berserker. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon against this model, have any damage inflicted, rounding up. So not bad. I like that, having the damage, especially if you get pummeled with like a giant knight's, you know, if you get hit with like a Paragon Gauntlet from a Gallant, he hits you with that and he's doing 8 damage. He's only doing 4 damage now. Still probably kill a regular guy, but still not bad. I like that one. And then you've got Battle Lust. This Warlord can perform a heroic intervention if there are any enemy units within 6 inches of them instead of 3 inches, and when doing so can move up to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. This Warlord always fights first in the fight phase even if they didn't charge. So it's basically 6-inch heroic intervention and fight first. Not bad. That's really good, especially if you're wanting to get into combat and your opponent's trying to keep you out of combat. That becomes super helpful to get you in there. And then you got to fight first anyway. So you don't have to spend CP to interrupt or anything like that, which is fun. Then you've got into their stratagems here. Scorn of Sorcery. Use the stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase. When an enemy psyker model manifests a psychic power within 24 inches of any word bearer's units from your army, roll 1d6. On a 4+, the effects of the psychic power are negated. So 4+, ignoring the effects, which is pretty nice. Black Templars also got that too. So pretty good there. Then you got Apoplectic Frenzy. Use this stratagem during deployment when you set up a World Eater's infantry unit from your army. At the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, you can move that unit up to 9 inches. It cannot end this move within 9 inches of an enemy models. If both players have it, you take turns going back and forth with whoever's going first. So pretty cool. It's the forward operative thing that the Alpha Legion have, which is always good. Then you've got Skulls for the Skull Throne. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when an enemy character model is destroyed as a result of an attack made with a melee weapon by a World Eater's character model from your army. Gain D3 command points. Pretty good. 1 CP. You spend 1 CP and you gain back D3 command points. So you're at least getting back the one that you spent, and you can possibly get an additional 2, which is pretty good. 2 CP for Red Butchers. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select one World Eater's Chaos Terminators unit from your army. Add 1 to the strength characteristic of models in that unit, and that unit gains the following ability. Blood for the Blood God. This unit can fight twice in each fight phase instead of only once. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. So you do it before you put it onto the Terminator. So basically your Terminators add 1 to the strength characteristic of models in that unit, and they get basically Berserker abilities. That's pretty cool. I think that's going to be super effective and super good. Really makes Terminators scary. Then you've got 1 CP for Kill, Maim, Burn. Use this stratagem in the fight phase before you consolidate with a World Eater's unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, each model in the unit can move up to 6 inches when they consolidate instead of 3 inches. So this will help you just suck in another unit so you can run up and, kill one unit that you go into there, and then you can consolidate up to 6 inches to get further into another unit and hopefully wrap them in and take them hostage until your opponent. So with 6 inches to move as opposed to just 3, it becomes easier to take like a model hostage and 3-point them there so they can't run away. Then you've got Wild Fury for 1 CP. Use the stratagem at the fight phase when you select a World Eater's unit from your army to fight with. Until the end of that phase, improve the armor penetration characteristic of melee weapons models in that unit are equipped with by 1. That's pretty good. You use that, put that onto a Berserker unit, and suddenly they've got AP -1 until the end of the phase. So even when they attack twice, they're going to have AP -1 on their chain swords with all those attacks that they have going on. Whoo, spicy. I like that one. I like that one a lot, especially for Berserkers. Then you've got Stoke the Nails. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a World Eater's infantry or World Eater's biker unit from your army that is not a Chaos Cultist is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, that unit's Death to the False Emperor ability takes effect when targeting any enemy units, not just Imperium units. In addition, when targeting Imperium units, the ability takes effects on hit rolls of 5+. So +1 to Death to the False Emperor, and getting to do it on anybody instead of just the Imperium. So you're just really angry. Death to anybody. Essentially death to anybody. I like that one. 2 CP for for the Blood God. Use this stratagem in the fight phase after an enemy unit is destroyed as a result of an attack made by a World Eater's model from your army. Until the start of the next turn, when a morale test is taken for a friendly World Eater's unit, do not roll the dice, it is automatically passed. When a result is taken for a friendly World Eater's unit. So it's just for a friendly World Eater's unit, so it doesn't even have to be within a certain distance of the one who did it. That's pretty good. I like that one. For a 2 CP, it's going to help everyone. So if you have like a really rough assault phase and you lose a bunch of models, but you manage to destroy an enemy unit, you spend 2 CP instead of just saving one unit, you save everybody, which is pretty cool. So not bad. Not bad for 2 CP. Situational again, but when it's situational, that is super good. Then you've got artifacts of the World Eaters here. So we've got Crimson Killer. Model with a plasma pistol only, changes it to 12 inches, pistol 1, strength 9, AP -3, 3 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of 4+ inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. So you're doing essentially on a 4+ to wound, you're doing 1 mortal wound plus 3 damage, AP -3, strength 9, 12-inch range, does not overcharge, does not get overheated, which is super effective for a plasma pistol. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Then you have Gorefather, model with a chain axe only. Strength +2, AP -2, 3 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, subtract 1 from the hit roll. And on an unmodified wound roll of a 6, the target suffers 3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. So it just does mortal wounds on an unmodified wound roll of a 6. So no saves allowed, just does 3 wound rolls for every 6. Does 3 mortal wounds for every 6. But then you've got AP -2 doing 3 damage for everything that's not a 6. So not bad. Gorefather, I think, is going to be super effective. Throw that in there on your aspiring champion in your Berserker squads. Super effective. I like that a lot. Oh, no, you can't do that. It have to be a character. That's still fine. I still think you can get a character that's going to run in there with them, do some good stuff. I like that. I still like it. Then you got Banner of Rage. Priest model only. Once per battle, at the start of the fight phase, a model with this relic can unfurl the Banner of Rage. If they do, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of models in friendly World Eaters units, whilst the unit is within 6 inches of that model. Once per battle again, I'm not so sure. Not so sure about this one, just because of the once per battle. +1 attack is super effective, especially if you've got that one turn of charge that you really need to get off. But at the same time, I can't for once per battle. I really hate taking relics that are once per battle. Again, that's just me. Maybe you're different. Maybe you have these plans for your army that'll work with those once per battle, and it really helps you with what you need it to do. But for me, once per battle usually doesn't really do me much good, because it usually every one of my plans usually fails. This is essentially what it comes down to. So then we've got Berserker Glaive, model with Power Axe or Axe of Dismemberment only. Strength +1, AP -2, 2 damage. When the bearer would lose a wound, roll 1d6. On a 5+, that wound is not lost. So a 5+, feel no pain, not bad. Doing 2 damage apiece, not bad. I think I'd probably take the Gorefather before I would take the Berserker Glaive, but both of them I think are good choices depending upon what you're looking to do with them. And then you've got the Helm of Fuhrer, infantry model only. Add 2 to the strength characteristic of a model with this relic. Not bad. At the start of your charge phase, if a model with this relic is within 8 inches of any enemy units, it must declare a charge. So you got to charge, but you're getting +2 to your strength, which is great. So you're probably wanting to charge anyway, but if you don't want them to charge, just make sure that they're more than 8 inches away. But at the same time, with your +2 strength, you're probably going to want to charge into them, which is great. Then you've got Blood Hunger. When an enemy model is destroyed in the fight phase as a result of an attack made by a model with this relic, roll 1d6. On a 4+, the model with the relic regains up to 1 lost wound. So when an enemy model is destroyed in the fight phase as a result of attack by its model and the relic, roll 1d6. So 4+, you're gaining a wound back for destroying enemy models, which is pretty good. That's actually really good. I like that one a lot. You then have the World Eaters tactical objectives and the World Eaters name generators. I am going to be Krieg the Maimer. Krieg the Maimer works. I like that one. And that's what you got. So awesome stuff that they've got in this book. So many rules, as you can see at how long this was. A ton of rules in here. A lot of stuff for a lot of people. I really like the way they're going with it. Sure enough, a lot of the rules that you're not getting a full, you're not getting as much as the supplements gave the other Space Marines, but at the same time, you're getting a lot of stuff. You're getting a lot of things that are really going to be helping out your chaos. Your Chaos Space Marines in there, giving some really, really cool relics, I think, some really, really cool stratagems, and some really, really cool Warlord traits to really help you buff you up and become super powerful. I also like if you're of the non-chaotic persuasion there with the Space Marines. I like what they've done with the litanies, getting those chapter-specific litanies, and then with the Black Templars, giving them a whole new chart of litanies, as opposed, because they're not going to get their own psychic discipline because they don't have psychers. They're not allowed psychers, so they're not going to get a psychic discipline. So they gave them a whole new litanies discipline, essentially, which is awesome. I really like that. I like how they did that. I like how they played it, made it very thematic to what the army was, but at the same time still buffing them up like they were helping buffing up the other chapters that came through. So I really like this. I think there's a lot of really great stuff in here. There's some stuff that's it's so, but there's a lot of really good stuff, and I don't think if you're a Black Templars player, I think if you are any of the Chaos Space Marines Legions players, this is a must need. I think this is all, you're going to be very happy with what they give you. I think they're really going to buff you up and make you a lot better, which is great, which is I think exactly what this stuff should do. And I think it just continues the story, and I like the fact that they are pushing the narrative forward with Warhammer 40K and not just sticking to back where they've been previously. And I like what they're doing. I really like what they're doing a lot of this, and I think that the rules in here, none of them feel broken, but they all feel like they can be beneficial, and in certain circumstances, really, really help you out, which is exactly what I think they should be. And I think that's exactly what they should have done, and I think they've done it great. So, but yes, so I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I have been Phil the Glacial Geek as always, and until next time, have fun.